Hey friends, my name is Joey and welcome back to my channel Gender Not Found. I was originally not going to record today because we haven't had any hot water since yesterday, but I got a shower tonight because the hot water came back on, and also my mom's away for the night, so I'm gonna take a bit of time to record. Uh, I'm gonna take a bit of time to record. I'm always yawning, but I want to record at least 2 chapters of A Guardian Angel. It's been a while since I recorded anything. I just want to let you guys know that I I haven't recorded in a few days, and I stopped recording and I stopped uploading for like I think a week and a half because I have way less time to record now. I still try and get plenty of time to record, but it's sometimes for it's not for a really long time like it was in the past, especially on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because I have Darla coming over in the morning, and then in the afternoon I have Carrie Ann. So basically, I only have like I don't know an hour and a half to record. Like I have from 2:30 till 4, and that's about it. So. And sometimes I might try and record later or also record on the weekends, which I would love doing. And tomorrow I'm gonna try and record in the morning because I have an appointment, but it's not till 1 o'clock, and I'm gonna get up at like I don't know 8:15, the usual time that my mom gets me up at. So I'm gonna be like awake and stuff, and so I'm gonna do a couple hours of recording in my room, and it's probably gonna be a Guardian Angel and maybe a little bit of something else. I don't know. But I want to read 2 chapters. Sorry, I just I keep yawning. Anyway, so I'm gonna try and read 2 chapters of A Guardian Angel, and we'll see what happens after that. So, and at this point, hang on.
Yeah.
I also just had dinner, so which was great because I was super hungry after everything, so I needed to eat. And alright. So I believe it's a time skip that just happened because her birthday was in like 2.5 weeks, I think. And so, or like 2 weeks, yeah. I think it was like 2 weeks. And I believe a time skip just occurred, and now Fiona's birthday. So, hang on. Ah, chapter 43, The Promise. The 2 weeks had passed in the blink of an eye, and in the chilly but quite lovely November afternoon, Marshall had brought Fiona out to lunch for her birthday. They sat together in a small cafe, Fiona enjoying the chocolate strawberry masterpiece Marshall had picked out for them to share, she drinking cocoa and Marshall enjoying a cup of coffee. It was all a ploy, a distraction, and his job given to him by Ellen was to keep Fiona away from the house until her party could be set up for her. He was told to use any means necessary, so he did. After cake, they went to a movie they'd both seen before, and using it as a bonding experience, the two just made out in the back of the theater the entire time. Right after they got out of the theater, Fiona running her fingers through her hair to fix her ponytail, Marshall checked his phone. To fix her ponytail. Marshall checked his phone. He had a text from Steve saying that it was okay to bring Fiona home. Herding the blonde into the car, Marshall headed towards the house as she talked up a storm about everything ranging from work to helping Mrs. Flint across the street rake her yard. So, what else do you want to do today? Marshall asked as they pulled into the driveway, the house unassumingly quiet. I don't know, hang out with my family, have some cake, birthday stuff, the blonde said with a smile as they walked up to the door. Well, I'm surprised you're still up for cake after this afternoon. And I thought you knew me, Marshall. I could eat cake every day for the rest of my life and be totally fine with that, Fiona said with a grin. Hearing this, Marshall grabbed the blonde just as she opened the door, his arms around her waist. I know you way better than I think I do, he said, grinning back at her, before opening the door himself, as together they entered the warm house. Fiona hung her jacket on the hook, Marshall following suit as they walked into the kitchen, and the moment Fiona flicked on the light, she shrieked in shock at the loud chorus of surprises coming from the large group that had been hidden from her view. Ellen was the first person to hurry over and hug her daughter, squeezing her tightly. "Happy birthday! Do you like it?" she asked, looking at Fiona, hoping that this was okay. "I love it! Thank you so much!" the blonde said, hugging her mother happily. Once Fiona was released, the party was underway. It seemed that everyone else who was able to come to the party was there. Marceline, LSP, Finn, Jake, lady who was quite obviously pregnant. Her grandparents, Ash, Mo, Billy, Steve must be having a field day with that. And Ember, FP, it seemed, was the only one who was unable to get time off work. Fiona was shocked that the house could contain such a large amount of people. Her grandparents, friends, aunts, and uncles. Everyone was here, well, almost everyone. She'd gotten a happy birthday call from Ignitus, knowing he was working today. The whole affair to Marshall seemed a bit childish for an 18-year-old's birthday party. Ellen made games for the partygoers to play, and it even had a theme, adventurers, because Fiona was an adventurer. Honestly, it made Marshall laugh, because despite his thoughts about the party and how childish it seemed, it was cute. It was cute, and Fiona was enjoying the hell out of it. Plus, she was playing with a pink crystalline sword at the moment. Instead of a cake, Ellen had made a whole bunch of cupcakes and had even created a little fantasy landscape with rolling hills and little candy people. She called it Ah. There was a Prince bubblegum and a peppermint maid and dozens upon dozens of candy princes, and Fiona was the hero of the land. Fiona was ecstatic, and the first thing she did was bite into a cupcake decorated to look like grass and giving Marshall one that seemed to be part of the shoreline. Marshall had to admit that was freakishly creative. The party was underway, people were talking. Finn and Jake started a completely ridiculous battle with cardboards in the basement, and Ellen announced that after she finished organizing everything, they would be opening presents in less than 15 minutes. To Marshall, this was the perfect time, and walking over to where Fiona sat chatting with her grandparents, whom he recognized from pictures that she'd showed him, he leaned down and rested his chin on her shoulder. "Can I bore you for a few minutes?" he said softly, watching as the blonde smiled. "Sure, have you met my grandparents, Marshall?" Fiona asked, standing. "I have not had that pleasure," he said, looking to the couple on the couch who both stood. "Marsh, this is my grandmother Miriam and my grandpa Otis." "It's wonderful to meet you," Marshall said with a smile, hugging Fiona's grandmother and shaking her grandfather's hand, continuing to hold it as the man stared at him. "Fiona's told us quite a bit about you, Marshall. We're relieved to hear you recovered from your illness," Otis said, releasing his hand, leaving Marshall just a bit shocked. "Thank you. You talk about me that much, Fee?" Marshall asked, turning to face the blonde who was blushing. "No. On the contrary, sweetie, she can't stop talking about you," Miriam said with a smile that caused Fiona's blush to deepen. "Grandma!" "Is that so?" Marshall said, unable to hold back his grin as he looked at her. Now Fiona grabbed his hand. "He needed to borrow me for something. Be right back," the blonde said quickly, pulling him away from her grandparents and to another room as they laughed. Quickly, Marshall took the lead, pulling Fiona out the back door, shutting it behind them so they were alone on on the deck. "What's up?" Fiona asked, feeling the cold November breeze and wishing she'd thought to grab her jacket. "I wanted to give you your present early, so it's the first one you get. Is that okay?" Hearing this, Fiona smiled. "Yeah, that's totally okay." "Good. So, you know I love you, right?" "Yes," the blonde said with a smile. "Well, I wanted to get you something to show you that I loved you, but everything I'm seeing is like engagement stuff and wedding stuff, and I think we can both agree we're not there yet. Not that I wouldn't marry you, I'm just kind of planning to be about 25 when I get married," Marshall said with a laugh. "Marsh, relax. You're talking wicked fast. I can barely understand you." "Well, I thought about it. And do you remember in those old cheesy movies that when the couple would go study, the guy would give the girl his ring and they were like official?" "Mm-hmm. We're already official. I mean, we have been for a year now. If you wanna count, if you wanna count our first finally back in contact phone call, then I guess it could be more than that. Marshall," Fiona said, catching his attention. "Yes, we're dating, and if you wanna count it, then for a year and 3 months. But you officially today was our first kiss. Now I love you, but I'm getting kind of cold." "Crap, right, sorry. So I've been thinking, and I kind of like the idea of giving you a ring. Only I don't have one, so I got you this," he said, pulling the box out of his pocket and handing it to her. Inside the box was a ring with a sapphire-colored stone that matched the color of the gem in her necklace perfectly, and on both sides of the stone were two diamonds. Marshall, it's beautiful, Fiona said softly. It's a promise ring, kind of like a pre-engagement ring. They've kind of really gone out of style, and because of that, I figured we could come up with our own promise for this ring to represent, he said, stepping close to the blonde as he took the ring from the box and offered it to her, watching as she looked at her hands. Which one? Fiona asked, watching as Marshall took her right hand. Left means marriage, right means promises, he said with a smile and watching her do the same. I promise that I'll always be here for you, that I'll protect you and take care of you and love you unconditionally. I won't promise the perfect relationship because we'll have arguments, but I do promise to do everything in my power to make you happy, he said, placing the ring on her finger, watching as the blonde before him beamed before flinging her arms around his neck and kissing him. Suddenly they could hear applause, and pulling apart, they could see the majority of the guests looking at them through the open doors leading to the deck and clapping. What happened? I couldn't see, Finn shouted. Marshall liked it, so he put a ring on it, Mo's voice said, ringing through the group of partygoers as they continued to clap, a good majority of them now laughing. Fiona was wondering why her mother wasn't freaking out, and as they entered the house, rejoining the group, she was pulled aside by Ellen. Marshall called and asked if it was okay to buy you a ring, she said, whispering into her daughter's ear. We knew for more than a month. Hearing this, Fiona hugged her adopted mother harder, knowing just how protective she could be. Thank you for saying yes. Thank your father. He kept Marshall in limbo for a good week, Ellen said as she smiled. Now let me see your ring, she said, taking her daughter's hand, while all the blonde's friends scurried around wanting a peek. Marshall watched as literally everyone bombarded the blonde with requests to see the ring on her hand, and with a laugh, Marshall hung back. So, when's the wedding, Mushy Mush? Ember asked with a smirk, having just come from the blonde. It's a promise ring, Em, not an engagement ring. Close enough, she said, punching his shoulder and watching him blush. It's a beautiful ring, though, so good job picking it out. It's specially made. Huh? There's no other ring like that in the world. I had them make a special order for it. It's one of a kind. Geez, that must have been pricey. Price doesn't matter as long as she likes it, Marshall said with a grin, watching as a peculiar look came over Ember's face. That's not a sapphire on that ring, is it, Marshall? She said quietly, staring at him in disbelief, watching as he just shook his head. Marshall, did you give Fiona a diamond ring as a promise ring? Ember asked in almost a whisper. It's not a diamond ring, it's just a ring with diamonds. A ring with a blue diamond. So? Marsh, those are wicked expensive, Ember said in concern. You will have money for food, right? Ember, did I ever tell you who my dad was? Marshall asked, having a feeling that Ember didn't know about his money situation. Yeah, so? Did I ever tell you what happened after he died? No, why? The redhead asked, tilting her head to the side. Let's just say that I won't have to worry about money. Ever. Now Ember looked skeptical. Marsh, by ever, do you really mean ever? The redhead asked, but as odd as it sounded, Marshall understood. I'm saying I could buy her the exact same ring every day for a year, and it wouldn't put a dent in what he left me. Now she was wide-eyed. Marsh, that's a lot of money. Why don't you live in a mansion or something? Now Marshall looked at Ember with a smirk. Where's the fun in that? I'm the same as I'll ever be. Money doesn't make me who I am, and it never will. That's why I put my mom in charge of my money, because I'd probably give it all away or something. And starting a band, well, that's expensive and doesn't make much in the beginning. So if I don't have money under watch while I'm getting all this started, how will I eat? He said with a smirk. Good point. I don't know. I kind of feel weird being around you now. What the hell? Why? I don't know. It's like I can feel the class separation. It's like the 1920s, and I just feel improper. Go over there before I have to smack you, Marshall said with a shake of his head, trying not to laugh. But I'm serious. Now Marshall picked up a newspaper. So am I. I'm still me. Jeez, he said, rolling it up and tapping her head with it. Still the same guy. See, still the same guy. Get a grip. Does Fiona know about all the money? I'll tell her eventually. I'm just glad I never told Ashley. That would have been more hellish to deal with than that breakup 5 times over, Marshall said as an afterthought. And the guys in the band? Yeah, they know too. I feel so out of the loop, Ember said with a laugh. I don't tell many people, just those I trust. I mean, I figured it was obvious, but I guess not. It's because you live for you, not for your possessions, Marshall. Now Fiona came hurrying over. They know it's just a promise ring, but they're all still excited. This is kind. th- They know it's just a promise ring, but they're all still excited. This is kind of really awesome, Marshall. Thank you, Fiona said with a smile as she hugged him tightly. You're welcome. Like I said, I promise. Everything in my power to make you happy, Fee, Marshall said, watching as the blonde teen beamed at him. I love you so much, Marshall, Fiona said just loud enough for him to hear. I love you too. Now go open your presents before your mom has to drag you over. Now Fiona grabbed his hand. I want you to come with me, she said with a smile. Okay. She had gotten dozens of things, a lava lamp from Jake and Lady, an actual printed t-shirt that wasn't drawn in Sharpie from Finn that she could wear around her new niece or nephew that said Auntie Fiona. From her grandparents, she'd gotten fuzzy pajamas of all colors, which Fiona loved. Mo bought her a little bunny keychain. Ash had gotten her a music book to write more songs. Her aunts had pulled together to get her a menagerie of goodies, ranging from cute little hair clips and nail polish to makeup and all sorts of glitzy things that would most definitely amuse her. She'd gotten a gift card to the local music store from Billy. The blonde feared to know the amount. Marceline's present, had it not been for the fact that Marshall had given her his gift first, Fiona would have sworn that she couldn't be any happier. She'd gotten the blonde a guitar, one similar to Marshall's, and when she saw it, she screamed it was baby blue and white and had the band's logo emblazoned on it. Running over, Fiona tackled the dark-haired girl in a hug. Fiona, you're gonna hug me to death for the love of Glob. Get off! I'm sorry, but I'm so happy, Marcy. You're awesome. After the commotion died down, Fiona continued opening her other presents. Ember bought her a bracelet, one with red and blue stones, and finally Fiona opened LSP's gift and stared at it, her face burning red in embarrassment before placing the books back in the bag at her feet, trying to ignore the clinking sound of the metal in the bag. Thanks, Lisa, they're lovely, Fiona said with a smile, though her expression was screaming for help. Being nosy, Marshall peeked into the bag and began laughing hysterically. Inside were fuzzy handcuffs, much like the ones they'd seen in Spencer's, and a box set of the 50 Shades books. Marshall, don't look, Fiona said, snatching the bag out of his view and tying the handles together, hiding the gifts within out of sight, as her face burned in embarrassment. What's in it? Ellen asked curiously. Don't you dare look either, Fiona yelped, sticking it under her chair. Now Ellen looked over to LSP. Lisa, you didn't get her anything inappropriate, did you? Mrs. Wright, Fiona is an 18-year-old adult woman. It's hardly inappropriate. What did you get her? Just some stuff? Lisa mumbled, withering under Ellen's stare, and before Fiona could stop him, Finn snatched the bag from under her chair and peered in. Lisa, what the hell are you trying to corrupt her? Finn yelled, just as Jake peered over his shoulder, now looking at the brunette angrily. Really? She's an adult, Lisa snapped, crossing her arms. What did you buy her? Ellen asked, now looking to Finn and Jake. You boys tell me right now. Fiona stared pleadingly at them, and after sharing a glance with each other, and then Fiona, Finn nodded and ran from the house as fast as he could with the bag, Fiona sighing in relief. Ellen spent almost an hour hunting him down, and by the time she found him, the items were well hidden in Jake's trunk, the younger blonde having doubled back. By the time she returned, most of the family was leaving, all complimenting her cupcakes and the success of the party, and as Ellen and Steve saw off the large group of family, Marshall, Finn, Jake, Ember, and Marceline were the only ones left, Ash and Mo having gone home, and LSP having slipped away to avoid Ellen's wrath. So, Marceline asked, leaning back on the couch watching the boys demolish each other in their video game, what did Lisa buy you? Hearing this, Fiona blushed again and checking that the door was shut. It was, she answered. Book porn and fuzzy handcuffs. The response had earned the laughter of the group, and deciding that it was okay enough to laugh about, Fiona joined in because now that she thought back on it, it was pretty funny. That's how they spent the rest of the night, video games and laughing, and Fiona couldn't be happier because it had honestly been one of her best birthdays ever. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Marshall said he didn't want to get married until he was like 25, and in a previous chapter, this author said that they have, hang on. The author said they have a chapter already written where Marshall is 25. So, I'm guessing that in that chapter, or like in the next chapter after that, of like, I'm guessing that when Marshall's 25, they're gonna get married. So maybe in that chapter they'll get married, or maybe in like a chapter or two later they'll get married. But I can totally see this wedding coming. Like even long before this, I could see this wedding coming. It's such a beautiful relationship. It's so sweet. Like, oh my God, so many relationships end in heartbreak, and this is so sweet to read, and I love it so much. I just love Marshall and Fiona, and I really like I don't know much about them. I think I saw literally one episode. Like I think I only saw the first episode. And by the way, they're making a sequel show to Adventure Time, or a spinoff, or whatever you want to call it, where it's Adventure Time with Fiona and Cake. So it's gonna be like Fiona and Cake, and I'm guessing Marshall and stuff. So that should be really fun. And maybe they'll end up together. I have no idea like who ends up with who. But like I said, I've only watched I think season 1 of Adventure Time and maybe a little bit of season 2. I don't know. Um but the point being, I've barely watched any of Adventure Time based on the like I think there's like 9 seasons of it, but I've watched like I think I've watched season 1. I think I watched the whole of season 1 and maybe a little bit of season 2. I don't know. I would have to properly look up the episodes to see like where I last ended off and what I've seen, to what point I've seen till, and like which episode I ended off on. And when I first started this book, I didn't have experience with anything Adventure Time related. And then I started watching Adventure Time, and it was this like really fun little show that I got really into, and I really liked it. But, just like Steven Universe and The Amazing World of Gumball, I ended up not watching the entire thing. But I did use part of my victim's compensation when I got it back in the spring to buy the entire box set of Steven Universe and the entire box set of Adventure Time. So I will be seeing it soon, when I move into my new apartment. Like, I have all the DVDs packed away right now, but I have Steven Universe and Adventure Time set aside for when I move into my new apartment, and that's when I'm gonna watch that. And I think I might even have. I definitely remember buying some of the Amazing World of Gumball, but I can't remember if it was just like a certain season or if it was the entire box set of the entire series. I think I bought the entire series. I'm not 100% sure on that. Um, Anyway, I'll be right back with another chapter, and I have so many videos. I have so many videos like put off to the side now. Like I have so many videos recorded at this point, and I have to I should probably start uploading them all because I think I uploaded like one video today, but I should start uploading them all, or at least you know, editing them and then rendering them so that I can post them. And I'm gonna record for a couple of hours tomorrow in the morning because my appointment isn't till 1 o'clock. So I will record a couple of hours. So I'm probably gonna try and do like 3 or 4 chapters of a Guardian Angel. I think I'm gonna do like two per upload. That makes sense. So like I'm probably gonna try and record 4 chapters, but I'm gonna spread them over 2 uploads. So two in one upload and then two in another upload. I think that makes the most sense. And if I might still do the giant uploads with like 3 or 4 hours of content. I just don't know. I'm gonna see how everything goes over the next couple weeks. Now that my schedule is more busy and I have stuff pretty much all day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I might try recording in the evening though, and I'm probably gonna start recording on the weekends. I do have my bedroom if I ever need it for recording, and my mom really doesn't seem to mind like having your music on quietly or whatever. If I need to record, if I decide, I'm gonna go record for a while, then she'll like put her music to a volume where I can't hear it in my room. So I really appreciate that. And hopefully I will be moved out of here soon. Um, so, yeah, hopefully I will be moved out of here soon, and then I won't even have to worry about that anymore because I made this huge plan to upload every single day, expecting that I would be moved out by January 1st, I think, because that was when the landlord said I had to be moved out by. He's been really understanding so far that we're like trying our best to find an apartment, and nobody wants to rent to someone on ODSP. And I even suggested to my mom that like I could that she could sign the lease and then she could pay all the rent and then I would just pay my $500 back to her because I thought like if they don't have to know that I'm on ODSP and my mom's just paying all the rent for me and then I'm just paying her my part back because I'm gonna pay like $500 and my mom and grandpa are gonna pay the rest. So I just offered that she can pay all the rent up front and then I'll pay her back like my part. And then like nobody has to know that I'm on ODSP. And I thought it would help, but I suggested that to her, and she said that people are still going to have to know, and it's just not going to do anything, so there's no point even mentioning it. And so, I don't know, I'm only frustrated, and this is getting exhausting. And I thought I was going to be moved out months ago, and I am clearly not. So, anyway, I will be right back with another chapter because I really want to do another chapter. I also have to plug in my computer because the battery just got low as I was finishing off the last few lines of that chapter. Anyway, so I'll be right back with another chapter. I was about to do the outro, but then I remembered I'm still doing a chapter. Okay. I, I put some paper towel in the rat's cage, and they love it. They're all over it. They're really enjoying it. And I will have to talk to you about the rats and stuff too. So anyway, see you guys in a bit with another chapter. Okay, I'm back with the second chapter. Ah, excuse me. Eh, what just happened? That just happened. That was weird. That was very odd. I thought the camera stopped recording for a minute. It started flashing orange, which usually means that it's gonna. Okay, anyway. Chapter 44 Shades of Excellence. You're not allowed to play sports. You could get hurt. Don't touch that. You don't know where it's been. You're a young man. Act like it. You're not a child anymore. Grow up. Your maturity is severely lacking. You should be ashamed. Your behaviors are a direct reflection on your father and I. Do not disappoint us. Why in the world are you averaging a B? Don't you dare associate with those boys. They're nothing but trouble. Bartholomew! 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 Oh, just shut up, the blonde groaned. Oh, just shut up. The blonde groaned, silencing the alarm as he pushed himself up from the bed. That dream was nothing new. His mother haunted him in all things, from his grades to what he should have become and how much of a disappointment he was. Never was he more excited when his father married Dessa after the divorce. She had been more of a mother to him than his own mom ever was. It had taken him a while to realize that while his father had married for love, his biological mother had married for money. Getting up, he pulled out clothes for the day, and after a quick shower, he dressed and began his day. After all, he'd always been a morning person. There was no sun to meet the strawberry blonde. It was still dark when he entered the kitchen, flipping on the light. Entering the pantry, he pulled out everything he'd need for this morning's muffins. Today they were going Today they were going to be chocolate banana nut muffins, his stepmother's favorite. Okay, that sounds amazing. Um, the sun was bright and shining by the time the muffins were done baking and sitting on the cooling rack. It was a forced habit. Get up and make breakfast. He'd always done it for his mother after the divorce. No, it was what he was supposed to do after the divorce. His parents stayed together until he was 10, and for 3 years he lived with his mother, taking care of her, because he was the new man of the house, and because it was his job to do so. After 3 long years, it just kind of stuck with him, because he felt like it was his job to do so. His father worked in an ad agency and was vice president in productions, and in the beginning he just didn't have much time for him, but when he'd met Dessa, that changed. Everything changed. The first thing that had happened was that his parents went to court to decide where he would live. He chose to live with his father. He'd never thought of what his life would be like if he stayed with his mother. He was happy here. When he asked for something, he got it, and there was never the question of whether it could be afforded or not. He got to choose his schools. He got whatever he wanted. Horses, easily obtainable. Culinary classes, as good as his. Friends, though. Friends were a different story, and as popular as he was, and as nice as he was, he couldn't keep friends well, if at all, and he didn't understand why until he'd met her, Fiona. Bubba could remember it like it was yesterday. It was a typical school day. Students were milling around, and he was surrounded by his school friends, the people who he would hang out with at school but never see them outside of those walls ever. He'd been in math class when he'd noticed her, because reaching out she tapped him on the shoulder asking him if he had a pencil and some paper and if she could borrow the book to write down the homework questions. Of course he'd given her what he had, and after that they'd talked. So, where are you from? I certainly don't remember seeing you before, Fiona. Well, originally I was from the other side of the country, but I moved here after some stuff going on. My guardian thought it was for the best, Fiona said with a shrug. What about you? Have you always been here? Oh, yes, I was born and raised here. I pretty much knew everyone from grade school, he said, smiling at her and watching as the blonde before him blushed. They had several classes together, and after weeks of hanging out in school, he'd actually gotten the courage to ask her to go get a drink at the cafe across the street of the school and to stay late with him for study sessions. He'd grown accustomed to her ways. She was fiery and sassy and was always getting into trouble, but that had stopped when he walked into the picture. Marshall. They had been friends of an odd sort. They constantly picked on each other. Bubba would help him in home Bubba would help him in home economics, and Marshall would help him out in music class. They were friends, but at the same time it seemed like they were competitors. Like their friendship was only possible if it wasn't acknowledged, and Bubba knew why too. He'd always been told to avoid troublemakers like Marshall, and something in him, for some reason, was constantly worrying about what kind of friendship they'd had. But it's not like Bubba could blame Fiona. Marshall, honestly, despite his tough exterior, was a nice guy, even though he hated admitting it. It wasn't a surprise when they'd started hanging out. She'd always invited him along when she was with Marshall, but he always declined. It had been months since they'd actually had time to themselves, and Fiona had offered still every time to see if he wanted to come along when she and Marshall would go do something. Still, he told her no, but it was the Friday of what he'd come to call the incident that he decided to get Fiona alone, and just as school let out, he asked her to stay alone in class. All of the students had left before she spoke up. What's up, Baba? I feel like I don't ever get to see you anymore, Fiona said, watching as he walked over from his seat. I feel the same way. Fiona, what do you think of me? He asked, suddenly catching her off guard. Well, you're a really nice guy and you're a great friend. Why? Do I have to beat somebody up again, Baba? No, heavens no. I was just wondering. I mean, I know that, well, I heard that you liked me. Hearing this, Fiona's face burned red. Well, but I also heard that you like Marshall too, he said softly, as Fiona's face burned an even brighter red. Is that true? Is that true? Well, yeah, kinda. I like both of you. You're both really nice guys, but why didn't you ever say anything? I don't know. I mean, it's not like I told Marshall I liked him earlier, so he doesn't know? No. Well, I was thinking that, well, he doesn't know you like him, so it's not like you'd hurt his feelings if I asked you out, right? Now her face was bright red. What? Wait a minute. I mean, like, you never showed me that you liked me outside of being friends, and you just pop out of nowhere with this. But Marshall, I think he really likes me. Like, I think he likes me, and he's always willing to hang out, and he never blows off our hangout time either. I mean, how would he feel if Marshall knew that I knew he liked me, and I started going out with you? That would hurt his feelings, and he'd probably be really upset and hurt. And I don't want to make him upset like that, Fiona said sadly, watching as Bubba sighed in exasperation. But what Marshall doesn't know wouldn't hurt him, Fiona. He doesn't know you like him. The guy's oblivious to stuff like that. And Bubba, you just don't understand. I did like you, okay? I really did. But you never showed that you liked me back, especially when you started avoiding hanging out with me, like I had the plague. Then you just demand out of the blue that we should start dating. I mean, sometimes I don't even think you listen to me, Bubba, and I know Marsh does. And so it's Marsh now? He asked, knowing that it sounded snippier than he meant it to. Yes, Bubba, it is Marsh now. I can come whenever I want. That's your problem, you know. This is why you have trouble keeping friends. You're so used to getting what you want when you want it. Friendship doesn't work like that. You just don't get it, and I don't think you ever will get it. Fiona snapped, grabbing her backpack and storming towards the door. Fiona, wait. No, I don't want to talk to you, Bubba. I'm mad at you. Just leave me alone, okay? The blonde said sadly, turning and leaving the classroom. With a sigh, Bubba sat down on the chair as he shook his head. She was the one who didn't understand. Didn't Fiona know how difficult that was for him to do? For him to ask her out like that just for her to reject him offhand? With a shake of his head, he stood walking to the window, looking out at just in time to spot Fiona walk over and hug the figure who was waiting by the swing set. She never hugged him like that. With another sigh, he turned away from the sight, heading home. He would talk to her on Monday, and he would fix everything. Hopefully by then he wouldn't be so mad. Hopefully by then she wouldn't be so mad. I'm guessing that this is when she ends up at Marshall's place. The weekend passed in a flurry of homework and projects, and when Monday had arrived, Bubba still wasn't sure what he was going to say to Fiona. Though oddly, he hadn't seen her at all, and her seat in homeroom was vacant. Maybe she was still mad at him, so she was skipping homeroom. Honestly, he wouldn't put it past her. Though today, something unusual happened as the PA system buzzed on after morning announcements. All students, please report to the auditorium for an emergency seminar instead of first period. I repeat, all students to the auditorium instead of the originally designated classes. Once the bell rang, Bubba grabbed his bag and headed towards the auditorium, finding a seat and waiting for the seminar to begin. Looking around for Fiona, he spotted a few people. One in particular was Marshall, who was a row ahead of him, and only a few seats over, looking around bored. After the students were settled, the lights dimmed enough so the stage was the main focus, and after several moments, the murmuring crowd grew quiet as the principal began speaking. Good morning, students. You're all here this morning for a very important meeting. One of your classmates has gone missing, and her guardians are desperately trying to find her. The student is Fiona Mertens, and she is 15 years of age. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, and her height is roughly 5 feet and 4 inches, he said as a photo of Fiona appeared on the projector screen. She was last seen by her foster father when she returned from school, but they believe that she may have gone to stay with some friends without thinking to inform them. Bubba was in shock as the principal continued speaking. Fiona was missing? Just the thought had him in a panic, and just out of pure curiosity, he glanced over at Marshall, who was practically dozing off in his seat. He knew the dark-haired teen enough to know that he would be worried if something was wrong with Fiona, and Marshall didn't seem worried. In fact, he seemed to find the whole thing amusing. Once the seminar had ended, the principal made a final announcement that anyone with any knowledge or possible leads should come forward. So once he was lost in the crowd of students, he made his way to the principal's office, telling him and the school police his thoughts. Her family was obviously concerned, so Bubba was sure he was doing the right thing. After that, he went to class, and all too soon he made it to lunch, deciding that he needed to talk to Marshall and let him know what he did and what he knew. It didn't go well. End of flashback. Honestly, it made Bubba wonder if it was too late to fix his friendship with Fiona. He understood everything now. He was lacking in empathy. He wouldn't lie, he was a spoiled, pampered kid and usually got what he wanted. Fiona was right, he never truly struggled, or suffered, or wanted for anything. He didn't know the pain of loss, or the ache to strive and succeed for what he desired because it was given to him. He did miss her, and the fact that even his cousin was good friends with his former friend saddened him. He truly wanted to right his wrongs, and with that thought he decided to call her, getting her number from Mo. Hello? Hello? Fiona, it's Bubba. Oh, how are you? I'm very well, thank you for asking. Do you have time to talk, Fiona? I'm kind of busy, Bubba. And how'd you even get my number? It won't take too long, I promise, he said quickly, listening as she sighed on the other side of the line. And I got it from Mo after almost 4 hours of asking. Okay, what do you want to talk about? I wanted to apologize to you. My comments the day after the party were inappropriate, and more so my actions. I should have talked to you rather than assume that the reason you ran away was something trivial. I also wanted to say that I'm truly sorry for the problems I could have caused for Marshall as well. My actions stemmed from jealousy, and I know my actions hurt you. I never should have done that, he said softly. The line was quiet for the longest time, and Bubba was sure she'd hung up. Thank you. I never expected you to apologize. Honestly, it means a lot to hear the sincerity in your voice. Do you forgive me? He asked, feeling as his heart pounded. I do forgive you, Bubba, but I won't forget what you did. I forgive you because your actions gave me my parents, and I won't forget because I know you only have my best interests at heart, I don't think, but I don't know that we can go back to the way we were. Honestly, I don't expect us to. If we do become friends again, that's your decision, though. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to. Trust is something hard to earn back and easily broken, Bubba. It's a fragile thing, and we'll just have to see. Only time can tell. I understand, Fiona. The next time you're in town, I'd like to treat you to a coffee or something. That way, if you'd be okay with it, we could talk more. I'll think about it, okay? Okay, I'm glad you've at least spoken to me. Of course I would, Bubba. Everyone deserves a second chance, but just one. Do you understand? Hearing this, oddly he smiled. I do understand, Fiona. For the first time, I actually do understand. This is the only chance I will ever get, and if I mess this up, you're going to write me off for the rest of my life. I probably will, but just so you know, there are going to be rules, Marshall. There are going to be rules, Bubba. Rule 1, I'm with Marshall, I'm dating Marshall, and nothing will ever change that, so I hope that this isn't some attempt to win me over because it won't work. Rule 2, if I have plans with you and Marshall wants to come, he's welcome to, though I doubt he would. Rule 3, have respect for our music, Bubba. Whether it's your cup of tea or not, it's something we truly put our hearts into, okay? I understand, Fiona. Very much so, I understand. Good, I have to go now. I have to get ready for work. But before I go, I want to ask, is this your version of redemption? It's my rendition of it, yes. It's the only way I know to make our situation better, he answered truthfully. Okay, I can respect that, Bubba. I do forgive you, but I have to go, Fiona said quietly. Okay, goodbye, Fiona. I'll talk to you later, Bubba. Hanging up the phone, the strawberry blonde felt a million times better, more so than he thought he would. Standing, he made his way towards the barn looking for Mo. It was cleaning day in the stables, and maybe he could use a hand. So that was about Bubba. That was a pretty short chapter. Um, Hang on. I'm gonna see how long the next chapter is, and then I'm gonna decide if I'm gonna read another one or not. Yeah, I don't know. Um. Hmm. I don't think so. I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not reading. I'm just like scrolling around to see if I can estimate how much time it's gonna take. Because my mom said she's gonna be back around 9 or 9:15. I don't think I want to take the chance, so I think we're just gonna leave it for now. That was 2 chapters, which was what I said I wanted to get done. And I think I'm gonna stop now. Anyway, I love each and every one of you guys. Please don't forget to always be yourself. You are valid, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye! Hey friends, my name is Joey, and welcome back to my channel, Gender Not Found. So, I know what the date says, but it's actually like super early in the morning. It's like 2:40 a.m. right now. My mom's away on her trip, and she's gonna be away till Saturday. And tomorrow or today. Hang on. Tomorrow or today or whichever you want to call it is going to be my biggest recording day. Like, I'm going to be recording for literally hours. So, and you know what? I decided, screw it. I want to record tonight because I don't care. And this is my hair. Hang on. Okay, that looks better. I just took a shower. Anyway, so I decided that I want to record for a little bit, and I would like to read a couple chapters of A Guardian Angel. It's been a while since I've recorded anything. Hang on. I also just want to let you guys know that um I have a surgery a week from today. So I don't know if I'm gonna be recording anything that week. Like, I don't know when I'm gonna get back into recording. I don't know if it's gonna be like, I don't know if it's gonna be like, I'm not gonna be recording right away. Like, I'm not gonna be recording until I recover from the surgery, so it could be a while. I don't know. I literally have no idea how long it's gonna take to recover. Like, I'm gonna ask them when I go in, but like, I have to get the surgery. Um, it's not like an absolutely necessary to survive or anything. It's just like a little minor surgery on my nose. Like, it's gonna be a day surgery. So, I don't know if I've told you guys about this already, but I have that issue with my non-allergic rhinitis, which I've had forever, and they can't do anything about the mucus. But when they did do the X-rays a while back, they found this like narrowing in my sinuses. So they're gonna try and open that up a little more so that I can breathe better. I don't. Um. so that I can breathe better. So I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so there's that. Until then, I'm gonna read some of the right. I'm gonna read some. Hang on. I'm gonna read some of this, and I want to get at least 2 chapters done. So, I have no idea what's gonna happen next, but oh, okay, it skips ahead. Hang on. Okay, we just skipped 3 months. Hang on. Um, Chapter 45. Uncle Finn and Auntie Fiona. 3 months later. Lady had woken with a start. Over the last month, she had gotten well acquainted with Braxton Hicks' contractions, the false contractions that the doctors had told her about. 4 different times Jake had panicked and dragged her to the hospital, even though Lady was quite sure that the baby wasn't on the way. But now, though, as she lay in the bed in the darkness of the evening, Lady closed her eyes with a wince, feeling as her belly clenched. Pushing herself up, she glanced over, remembering that Jake was working late tonight. Reaching over, she turned on the side table light and standing, she felt the clenching in her belly once again and knew that tonight was the night. Lady walked to the dresser, grabbing her brush, running it through her naturally blonde hair, and pulled it back out of her face, dressing in comfortable clothes. She picked up the overweight bag that had been she picked up the overnight bag that had been packed for weeks and carried it down the stairs. Lady figured that she would call Jake on the way to the hospital, but the moment she pulled on her jacket, the door to the apartment opened and she was quickly spotted. Jake's eyes went from the baby bag to her jacket to the keys in her hands, and just like he did the last 4 times, he panicked, letting out a yelp. The baby's coming? Jake, calm down, Lady said softly, gasping a bit at another contraction. Oh, ow! Oh my God, the baby's coming! Ah, Jake, I will leave you here and go by myself unless you can calm down, she said, putting her hands on her hips and cutting her look as best as she could. Okay, okay, I can be calm. Everything is totally okay, he said, taking a deep breath and motioning for her to go through the door. All is okay and calm and just totally relaxed. I should call our parents, he said, pulling out his phone. Hospital first. Lady had been due Valentine's Day. Jake was sure that their child, whom they decided to not know the gender of, would definitely be a Valentine's baby. They were both quite wrong, because 2 days before that special day of love, Lady went into labor, and Jake felt the need to call everyone then and there, before thinking to bring his fiancée to the hospital. It was a good thing that Lady was so level-headed, because Jake was anything but. Fiona woke the morning of the 13th in a flurry of excitement as her mother roused her. Ellen was wearing a huge smile, and Fiona knew that at some point her niece or nephew had been born. What is it? She asked eagerly, jumping from the bed in unadulterated excitement. 6 pounds and 13 ounces, 20 inches long, and her name is Jackie Lynn Wright. I have a niece, the blonde screeched happily as she jumped up and down, hugging her mother. Oh my glob, let's go! I want to see them like right now. Come on, Fiona said excitedly as she quickly began tearing through her dresser, pulling out clean jeans and a t-shirt, specifically the one Finn had specially made that matched his that said Auntie Fiona with the ends backwards and her name upside down. By the time she began changing, her mom had already left the room, and running a brush through her hair, Fiona pulled it back, pushing her bangs out of her eyes. Grabbing her phone and pulling her sneakers on as she hopped down the hall, Fiona raced down the stairs, jumping the last 5 and landing at the bottom, startling her mother. So where's Dad? Oh, he's out with Finn getting some balloons and stuff like that. Now that we know it's a girl, we wanted to go get a few things. He wanted to go get a few things. Okay, should we bring her flowers? We've already ordered a special arrangement to be delivered in the hospital room. All we have to do is go and love all over that baby, Ellen said with a smile as they hurried to the car, making their way to the hospital. For the first time in a long time, it was the good news. They arrived at the hospital only 10 minutes later, and quickly the two blondes made their way to the room, and once they entered, Jake stared at them with watery eyes, holding a tiny pink bundle. I'm a daddy! Almost immediately, Ellen began bawling and hugged her son, as Fiona just smiled with a shake of her head. Feeling as though Lady deserved some attention as well, Fiona walked over and hugged her. Congratulations, she said with a smile, earning one from the new mother. I'd be happier if I'd be able to hold my baby. Nodding, Fiona walked over to Jake and Ellen, who were fawning over the baby in his arms, and after they had pointed out whose features little Jackie had, Fiona was allowed to take the infant in her arms, and as she did so, she practically melted. She really was a beautiful baby. She was darker colored than Lady, but much lighter than Jake. She had her mother's beauty and her father's cheeks and eyebrows, and light brown, nearly blonde like her mother's hair. Fiona watched as Lady smiled, the teen offering her her daughter. Once her father and Finn arrived, it seemed that the room exploded with both noise and love. Her parents shared a look, and once again Ellen began to cry watching Finn hold the baby. Steve cried holding the baby, and oddly for Fiona, it just felt beyond overwhelming. Carefully, she snuck out of the room for some air, and pulling out her phone, she called Marshall. They had to be the most awkwardly uncomfortable things ever, these headphones. They were called cans, according to the recording studio's sound people, and even though they were a pain in the ass to wear, they worked better than Marshall thought they would. He could hear every single sound. It was difficult to describe. He couldn't hear anything outside the headphones, so he didn't really believe it was his own voice when they had him testing the sound out. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I sound hot. No wonder Fiona likes it when I sing to her, Marshall said, watching as the guys on the other side of the glass were laughing. Okay, all kidding aside now, are you ready for the first recording? Maybe. Give me a few runs through the first few seconds of the song. I'm used to starting when I play the music, not starting and listening to it. Does that sound weird? Not at all. We'll be recording each time though. Marshall nodded, listening to the music, and after 4 tries he was annoyed. His timing was off every time. Why the hell couldn't he play his guitar and sing at the same time? Then a thought hit him. What if he pretended to play his guitar? Are you ready for take 5? Yeah, I am. Give me 15 seconds and then play the song, Marshall said, closing his eyes and preparing to look like the biggest idiot ever as he prepared to play his guitar that wasn't there. He listened, pretending hmm, he listened, pretending he was on stage and ignoring the faces on the other side of the glass, and the moment the music started, he let his hands do what they normally would have, and for the first time out of all the takes, he was spot on, starting the song to match the music already playing. He had finished his part of 4 songs, and after figuring out this little trick, he'd completed the rest on 1 take each. By the time they'd called for a break, swapping him out with FP for his parts, Marshall felt his phone ringing in his pocket, and grabbing it, he answered. Hey, beautiful. Hey, Marsh, the baby came yesterday night, Fiona said, and Marshall swore he could hear her smiling. Yeah? What did they end up having? He asked curiously. It's a girl, and she's beautiful. Mom and Dad keep crying. Finn already held her up like Simba, and Jake won't let him hold her anymore. I'm guessing this is what happens when there's a new baby that happens in the family, Fiona said with a laugh. I don't really know, so I'd have to say probably, but this is Finn and Jake we're talking about too, Fee, Marshall said with a grin, watching as FP was having the same troubles as he was, and catching his attention through the glass. He motioned playing a guitar. FP didn't see him or didn't want to look like an idiot, and with a shrug, Marshall sat on the couch listening as Fiona talked about the baby. So, aside from all that, what are you up to? The blonde asked, apparently now back in the hospital room, because Marshall could hear the chattering of the family. We're at the recording studio. I just finished my parts of 4 songs. You didn't do the duet, did you? Fiona asked, suddenly catching Marshall off guard. Of course I didn't. I already told them that we're doing that one together, Marshall said, sounding insulted. He was bored to death. Making music was more fun when you were actively involved, and checking with one of the assistants there that he was no longer needed, Marshall got the okay to leave and decided that he would surprise Fiona at the hospital. All while on the phone with her. Luckily, the studio was only an hour and a half away from the blonde. Oddly, it was right in the middle of the both of them. So, what's it like? It's gonna be much e- So what's it like? It's gonna be much easier for you. You just sing, so you don't have to worry about starting exactly with the music because it's what you've been doing the whole time. I'm used to doing both at the same time, so I actually have to pretend to play my guitar to get the timing right, Marshall said as he continued to drive down the highway. They talked for the next hour and a half about pretty much everything that had to do with recording, Marshall going into excruciating detail about why the count sucked. why the can sucked, and then teased the blonde relentlessly until she was stuttering at him about how he knew now why she liked his voice. Just shut up, Marsh. Oh, come on. I totally understand how you fell for this sexy voice of mine, Fiona. I damn near fell in love with myself, he said with a smirk as he walked into the gift shop, pointing at two bouquets of flowers and giving the woman behind the counter the money for them. I just stop teasing me, Marshall, the blonde snapped. The blonde snapped, um, making him laugh on the other line. Okay, okay, I'll behave. But do tell what room you guys are in. I'd like to send flowers, he said, looking at the sign in the hospital that led to the maternity ward and going to the third floor, pressing the button in the elevator. Oh, we're in room 422 on the south wing, Fiona said, leaning against the wall near the window. Okay, I'll be sure to let them know. Oh, and did I ever let you know I really like those jeans on you? Marshall asked suddenly, making Fiona blink. What? You know, the one with the butterfly patch below your pocket. They're cute on you, Marshall's voice said, coming from the door, making her whip around with a huge smile. Marsh, I thought you were back home, Fiona said, hurrying over and hugging him, hanging up her phone. Well, you were talking about beautiful new babies and warm, fuzzy family moments, and I haven't seen you in a while, so I thought I'd come and visit. I brought you flowers, and I brought flowers for the special new mom, Marshall said, showing Lady the bouquet and placing them next to the rest and handing Fiona hers. Thank you, they're beautiful. Would you like to hold the baby? Lady asked, holding the infant out to him. I don't think. Of course he would, Fiona said, taking Jackie from her mother as she stood in front of Marshall. Come on, it's easy, Fiona said with a smile, standing right in front of him, feeling as he gently lifted the infant from her arms. Okay, I can do this, Marshall said nervously, adjusting his arms, Fiona's hands now on his arms. Relax, you're doing fine, she said, motioning for him to sit in the chair behind him, which he quickly did. She's very small. Babies usually are, Ellen said now, arranging her soon-to-be daughter-in-law's flowers and gifts. Small was an understatement. People couldn't be this small. It was just so odd to see. Jackie yawned, nuzzling her little face into Marshall's sweatshirt, Fiona watching and smiling the entire time. She truly is beautiful, he said softly, Jake making his way over. Marshall wordlessly handed the man his daughter, and he and Fiona watched as he began crying again. I can't believe I'm a daddy, Jake said in a watery voice, which of course set Alan off once again. Hey, you want to go get some dinner? Marshall asked, looking over at Fiona. Sure, that's okay, right? She asked, looking to her parents. Her mom was hugging Jake Finn and the baby, being far too busy to answer, but her father simply nodded. Of course you can. With a nod and a final goodbye to Lady and the baby, Jake just now crying uncontrollably as he hugged his brother, Fiona and Marshall walked from the room, the blonde taking his hand as they walked down the hall. Thanks for coming to visit, Marshall. It really means a lot to me. Of course I'd come. I haven't seen you in more than a week, so why wouldn't I? This is something special and important, and I wanted to be here with you for it. Aw, thanks, Marsh. I really am glad that you're here. I missed you. Hearing this, Marshall smiled, especially when she leaned over and kissed his cheek as they walked towards the parking lot, the dust making it safe to keep his hood down. So, where do you want to go? He asked as they climbed into the car. We can either go out or we can go back to my house and just make something there, Fiona suggested as the car started up. But do you really want to wash dishes after dinner? Marshall asked, knowing Fiona well enough to know the answer as they pulled out of the lot. No, no, I don't. Not at all. What do you think of burgers? She asked, just the thought of them making her stomach rumble. Bacon cheeseburgers, Marshall said with a grin as Fiona sighed. Yes, with fries. Marshall, let's get burgers. What about chili cheese fries? Marshall said, suddenly feeling the need to eat exactly what they were talking about. Marshall, you're my food soulmate, Fiona said with a grin as they drove down the street, pulling into a diner parking lot. Prepare yourself for the best burgers and chili cheese fries of your life, Marshall said as they got out of the car. FP's grandpa would bring him and I here all the time. This food is life-changing, he said, grinning as together they walked into the diner. Marshall was right. He always managed to be right, and Fiona at this point just decided to stop questioning it. The food was amazing, and as she sat in the booth, Marshall across from her, the blonde kicked her feet up on the side of the chair and sighed. My belly is so full it's sickening, she said, her head leaning back and her eyes closed. I told you to slow down, Marshall said with the smoke drinking his chocolate shake. I know, but it was so good, Marsh. Oh, I know it. Ready to go home? Yeah, I might need a nap. Movie hang time? Marshall asked, pulling out the money and placing it on top of the check. Oh, heck yes. Something totally gory with blood and guts and stuff. I was thinking something with cool fight scenes and humans in peril, Marshall said as they walked to the car. Fiona climbed in, thinking about what would work for the both of them. Oh, I know. What about Alien or AVP? Oh, I know. What about Alien or AVP? What's AVP? Fiona turned to face Marshall so quickly that she actually startled him. You've never seen Alien vs. Predator? She gasped. No. We're watching it when we get home. I think you'll enjoy it a lot, Fiona said with a smirk. The drive home didn't take long, and pulling into the driveway, they quickly realized by the darkness of the house that they were the only ones home. Fiona led the way, unlocking the door and letting them in the house, hanging her coat on the hook and following after Marshall, who was already heading towards the basement. Fiona arrived and Marshall was browsing the movie case, pulling out the disc as Fiona set everything up for them, and in the end Marshall flopped on the couch and Fiona flopped next to him, his arm across her shoulders as the movie began. Fiona was right, he did like the movie. It was the perfect pick for their mix of preferences, and after the movie came to an end, Fiona looked up at him. Good one? She asked with a smirk. Yeah, it was. I'll have to buy that, Marshall said, seriously disturbed that he hadn't seen it before. So, what do you want to do now? The blonde asked, now leaning heavily on her boyfriend. Hmm? Not on your life, you temptress, Marshall said with a smirk, watching as Fiona burst out laughing. What the hell? Where are you, from the Middle Ages, Marsh? The blonde asked, still laughing. "Pff, no way, I like this era, Marshall said with a laugh. Why's that? Don't you want the chance to slay the dragon and save the princess? Fiona asked, now grinning. Nah, I'd stay here because you're here. Besides, you'd be no damsel in distress, you'd probably try and kill the dragon yourself. Then to add insult to injury, you'd beat up the knights too. Maybe I'd wait for you to save me, she said simply. Fat chance. You'd get impatient, and don't say you wouldn't because I know you. Knowing she was beat, Fiona scowled and turned away from him. Not the brightest of choices. You know, Marshall said, leaning over, I know every single weakness you have, and I know you can't stay mad at me, especially when you're laughing so much, he said with a smirk. But I'm not. Then she felt his tickling fingers on her sides as she let out a very uncool, high pitched squealing noise as she began laughing, even falling off the couch to try and get away. It didn't work. Instead, Marshall just sat on top of her as Fiona continued laughing, trying to push his hands away, and in an attempt to get him to stop, Fiona grabbed his shirt collar and kissed him hard. It was a success because his hands moved away from her ticklish sides, one resting on her hip and the other holding him up off the floor, and when they finally parted, Fiona grinned. Geez, it's so much work to get a kiss from you, Marshall. You could have just asked, Fee, Marshall said with a smirk, knowing that the entire time she'd been suggesting it without even speaking. I was being suggestive, the blonde said flatly. I know. Now she raised her eyebrows, looking at him curiously. Then why didn't you kiss me? Because I like it when you make the first move, he said simply, still leaning over the blonde who still looked at him with intrigued curiosity. Why? Because I know I'm not pushing you into anything, and that you're comfortable with where we're at. It was the truth, and it was easy for Fiona to see so. Instead of speaking, she just smirked as she wrapped her arm around his neck, pulling him down once again, her hand tugging at the one on her hip, letting him know it was okay for his hands to wander as the kiss heated in intensity. The movie at this point had started playing again, and because it did, neither heard the door upstairs open or close, and neither heard the sounds of the footsteps either, but what did catch their attention was the loud cough from the bottom of the stairs. Quickly both teens looked towards the source to find Finn leaning against the doorframe, not looking the least bit amused. Fiona felt her face heat up as quickly they pulled apart, Fiona rolling over so her brother was no longer upside down in her vision. Don't tell Mom, Fiona said quickly, looking from Finn to Marshall, who was looking everywhere but at her older brother, his face burning in embarrassment. It suddenly dawned on her that because he did have his own place for so long, that he must have never gotten caught before. Okay, Finn said, walking over, leaning on the back of the couch behind them so he could speak without their mom overhearing him. So I should just forget that I walked down here and found my sister on the floor with her boyfriend's hand up her shirt. Yeah, Finn, you should. And why's that? Because I know you and Ember have done a lot more than me and Marshall have. Remember the hospital visit? Fiona asked with an edge to her voice, making her brother's cheeks burn. Touche, okay, consider it forgotten. But this is the first and last time you can use that against me, and I can't use this against you, period. Deal? Deal. Neither ever happened, the blonde said, shaking her brother's hand. Good, didn't think anyone knew about that, he said, rubbing the back of his head. You weren't very subtle, Fiona said flatly. Yeah, I'll just go upstairs, let them know you're watching a movie and nothing else. Oh, and Mom brought home your flowers, he said, standing and making his way up the stairs. Now Fiona turned to Marshall. That was beyond embarrassing, he said, not looking up, feeling completely mortified. You're telling me, the blonde mused as she shook her head. How'd you know about Finn and Ember? Marshall asked curiously. I knew they were dating, but I kind of made up the rest, Fiona said with a smirk, watching as Marshall stared at her with a huge grin. Are you kidding? Nope. Glob, you're awesome, he said, leaning over and kissing Fiona, who smiled. Okay, oh my god. His 3-year-old nephew had surgery and he was hemorrhaging from his brain. Oh my god. The next chapter will be out tomorrow, and it will be another 3 months time gap to get us through this slow year of chapters. I'm pretty much hitting all the major points of this year in the story. Thanks for your well wishes for my nephew. Thanks tons for the reviews, and sorry to make you wait. So, oh my god. Well, at least he's fucking okay, because that could have gone either way, and I didn't even know that was happening. I don't, like, I haven't been reading the author's notes on this. I read the occasional author's note, but I haven't really been reading the author's notes. I think I'm just gonna leave it there for now because I'm I'm pretty tired. Obviously, it's been super late, and I will be back tomorrow. I'm not gonna bother doing my outro because I'm just gonna record another chapter tomorrow, and then I'm just gonna edit the two of them together, and maybe I'll record more, and we'll just see. So, alright, bye for now. Alright, I'm back 1 day later. And I was thinking, no, first of all, no one's watching my videos, really. I only get like maybe one view a video. But what I was thinking is maybe I'll just keep recording videos for now because I love recording videos and I'm really enjoying this. And then I'll do like a one of those burst uploads. Like I'll do like a bunch of burst uploads and I'll just upload a crap ton of videos all at once, like once I moved out in a couple weeks. Because I'm gonna try and move in as soon as possible after the weekend. Because April 1st is a Friday, I think. So I want to have my usual weekend with my mom, and then I want to like um be there. Yeah, I want to have my usual weekend with my mom, and then my hope is that I can move into my new apartment right after the weekend. So I might just wait until I moved in. Um, I might do like one more upload. Just I started reading In the Heart of Darkness, and I've been reading other stuff. I read a lot of chapters of A Guardian Angel. Maybe I'll do like a huge upload because I think I'm at like chapter 40 something. But the last chapter I uploaded was chapter 36, and we're at like chapter 45 or 46 now. I think we're at chapter 46. I think we just finished chapter 45 last night, if I'm not mistaken. So, anyway, I'm gonna start reading and I'll decide if I'm gonna do like a giant, because I can probably do like an 8 or 9 chapter upload if I wanted to. I just have to, all I have to do is just put the videos onto my hard drive and then like the uploads onto my hard drive and then like once I've edited the video, just save the edited video to my hard drive and let it render onto my hard drive and then post it from there to YouTube. Um Speaking of my hard drive, I'm gonna have to transfer stuff onto my hard drive after this video. But anyway, I think we're gonna start reading now because I only have one more chapter till I have to transfer things to my hard drive. And I have to make sure that I can record the full entire chapter, so we're just gonna wait. I think I went to the wrong thing. Okay, here we are. Guardian Angel, and we're gonna figure out what chapter we're on, and we're gonna read it. And oh, another 3 months passed. Would you look at that? Chapter 46, Twists and Turns. 3 months later. A lot of people wouldn't assume it, but Ignitus was big on romance. He liked to be the initiator of the relationship, but never minded it when a girl was bold enough to ask him out. He actually liked it more than he would admit. There was no kidding anyone. He could be quite intimidating, though he had to admit it's not like his looks made it any easier. In the last 3 months, he had let his hair grow out. He liked his mohawk, but his head was getting cold, so he went with the faux hawk instead, deciding to keep it even though it was now the merry month of May and warm enough to keep his signature hairstyle. It's not like he could find a girlfriend at work either. He worked at a liquor store, and not many reputable girls frequented the liquor store daily, so he wondered if maybe he should get a hobby that wasn't his usual habits. He was a whiz at turning skeins of yarn into balls of yarn for his nana. It was official, he needed a hobby. Ignitus had been stacking the bottles on the shelf, and finished up by the time the first of the customers came in. They were all the usual customers, the homeless guy down the street, the twin alcoholic men, the tween girl who tried getting liquor every Saturday morning and failed, and the prostitute who would come in and buy exactly what the girl wanted, along with a pack of Camel cigarettes. He was pulling a double today because his boss had somewhere to be, as if he didn't on a Saturday night. He really didn't, but that wasn't the point. FP was sure that if he tried hard enough, he could find a party or something fun to crash, but before his thoughts could drift, the jingling sound of the door opening caught his attention, and glancing over, he spotted a girl with long straight hair, so bleached blonde it was nearly white, wearing a white shirt and light blue jeans that hung off her hips. She quickly walked off, and glancing over, FP was surprised to find that it was half hour to close. The day had flown by. Grabbing his clipboard, he began to do the inventory for everything behind the counter, and hearing the sound of tinkling glass on the counter, he turned, spotting the girl with a case of beer and 2 bottles of green apple Smirnoff. You know you have to be 21 to buy anything here. Can I see your ID? He asked, leaning on the counter. She looked way too young to be able to buy alcohol. Oh, come on, would I lie? She asked, looking up at him. Her eyes were a silver color with flecks of blue. You tell me. ID, he said, motioning with his hand. She sighed and dug through her purse, pulling out a card and handing it to him. FP took one look at it and knew it was a fake. He'd worked here for more than a year now and knew a real ID when he saw one. So instead of calling her out on it yet, he decided to chat her up, because the redhead had to admit she was hot. So, where you going with all this booze? He asked, still scrutinizing the ID, watching as she anxiously bit her lip. College party that my roommate's throwing. You bring a bottle, you get in. Really? So how do you plan to get a bottle with this? The expiration date's wrong. There's no IDs printed with that year yet, so I know it's a fake, he said, watching as her jaw dropped. Oh, come on, please. I just want to get to this stupid party. You look like you're having a good time. Why don't you come with me? You look like you like having a good time. Why don't you come with me? I have the money. I'll buy you whatever you want in here. Just sell it to me. FP was actually considering it. It wasn't often that a party came to him, and leaning back against the wall, he brought his hand to his chin in contemplation. It had been a while since he'd gotten drunk or went to a party. The last one he could recall had been prom, and that was more than 7 months ago. So, what's in it for me if you buy me my drink and bring me to this party? Why would I care about a college party? Come on, you're a guy. To put it bluntly, you're kind of hot and girls dig that, she said, watching as he smirked at her. Okay, I'll consider it, but first 2 questions. Shoot. You have a real ID? Yep. Gimme. He watched as she dug through the bag, pulling out the real ID in a flash, handing it over to him, and the first 2 things he checked were her name and age. So, Angel, only 19, and you have the thing for drinking, he said, handing her back the ID and ringing up her purchases. Is that your second question? Nope. What made you think you could change my mind? 'Cause I'm a girl that gets what she wants, that's why. Interesting. What else do you want? I'd like to take you to this party. I'm sure I could blow your mind, she said, now leaning on the counter with a grin. Okay, I'll go to this party, and I could use a drink too. Give me 10 minutes to close up shop, he said, watching as she jumped up, sitting on the counter. He went through the night routine, sweeping up, doing inventory on the items of the day as he went, feeling her eyes on him the entire time, and in no time he had everything from his locker and headed to the door. Angel jumped off the counter, her drinks in the bag, watching as he pulled a bottle off the shelf. You're just gonna take that? Nope, you paid for it. It's the $10 charge on your receipt, he said with a smirk, shooing her out of the store as he locked the glass door and began pulling down the metal grates and locking them with the padlocks attached to them. You ready for a good time? She asked with a smirk. I'm a tough critic, but I dare you to impress me. You have till dawn to blow my mind, Ignitus said, watching as she pulled out her car keys before heading to his own truck. This was a first, not crashing a party because he'd done that frequently, but the party coming to him. And something about this chick. She was bold, and he liked that about her. It was a mixture of her looks and attitude. It was like good girl gone bad. They pulled up to a large house and parked on the street, Ignitus parking behind the blonde who quickly popped out, holding her alcohol. I never even got your name. I never even got your name. Ignitus? Sounds hot. That's not the first time I've heard that, he said, shaking his head with a smirk. Well, let's go, she said as they walked up to the house, not even knocking and just waltzing in. It seemed that everyone knew her in some form, and because he was walking in with her, FP could hear the whispered words even about him. Not that they were bad, he just knew his regular impassive face was intimidating. He'd heard Amber talk about it once, how she had bitch face syndrome. It was when you looked angry all the time, even though you weren't. Now that he thought about it, he did always look irritated about something, and being a bit hot-headed didn't help much, but that was in the past and couldn't be changed now. It seemed like Angel was the life bringer of the party, because when she arrived, the music turned up much louder, and it seemed that the entire group let go and just went with it. Hours passed, and FP was amused, though not thoroughly impressed, like she told him he'd be, but after winning a game of beer pong, he was grabbed by the blonde who leaned into his ear. Are you ready to be impressed? Because I have something I think you'll like, she said in a teasing voice, making Ignitus grin, grabbing his hand and leading him up the stairs and into the last room at the end of the hall. You smoke, right? She asked, closing the door behind them. That I do, he said, walking across the room, which seemed to be some kind of office/bedroom, though it seemed that the large windows were what had drawn her to it, because moments later she opened them. Okay, this is the mind-blowing part, she said with a smirk, sitting down at the desk and pulling several things out of her purse before rolling up the joint. There were two small paper balls that she'd pulled out of the bag and handed one to him. This'll make your high last forever, not really, but I mean hours and hours, she said, popping her own into her mouth and swallowing it before picking up the joint and lighting it. FP stared at the little wrapped piece of whatever in his hand. He wasn't quite sure he wanted to know what it was, or what it would do, so he stared at it unsure. Seeing his uncertainty, Angel made her way over, taking it from his palm. It won't kill you, you know, she said with a smirk, holding it up to his lips. Just this once, and if you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. I did promise you a mind-blowing night after all. Just this once? Just this once? Unless you want to do it again, she said, watching as he sighed, opening his mouth as she slipped the wrapped piece of he had no idea what on his tongue. Don't bite it, just swallow, she said, and watched as he did as he was told, before taking a sip of his drink. Angel walked over towards the window and sat in front of it, relighting the joint, and deciding he might as well, FP walked over and sat next to the blonde, taking a hit before handing it back to her. This is way better than the crap I usually get, he said, letting out a stream of smoke. It seemed almost smoother. That's for starters, to get the high going. In about 10 more minutes, you'll be golden, the blonde said, looking over at the redhead and taking another hit and handing it to him. This stuff right here is life-changing, and it makes you want to have all the fun in the world, she said with a laugh. What kind of fun do you like to have, Ignitus? Angel asked, leaning her head on his shoulder, feeling lighter than air. Depends on what you mean by fun, Angel, the redhead asked, feeling whatever it was that she'd given him kicking in. It was the strangest thing he'd ever felt, and it was nowhere near unpleasant. He liked it a lot, actually. He was more than surprised when she'd straddled his leg, pulling the small remnants. When she'd straddled his lap, pulling the small remnants of the joint from his hand and taking a final hit on it before grinding it out. Blowing the smoke out of the window, she leaned down and kissed him, wiggling suggestively in his lap while doing so. I mean this kind of fun, she said, pulling away. Nope, I've done it once and never again, he said, not stopping her as she kissed her way down his neck. You've only screwed around once? No, a one-night stand only once. I'm not the type that usually does that, and I didn't know it was her first time either, Ignitus said, closing his eyes as her tongue ran along the edge of his ear as she whispered into it. Hang on. Well, I'm no virgin, and what makes you think it would be just a one-night stand? You like me. It's easy to tell from where I'm sitting, she said, squirming again and listening to him groan. And I like you, so who says we can't make this a regular thing? We hang around, we get high, we screw around, maybe get to know each other. Nothing has to be an official, but who says nothing has to be official, but who says we're not allowed to have fun? She breathed again, squirming on his lap until he couldn't take it any more. Quickly leaning forward, she was on the floor below him as he kissed her, fiercely feeling as she smiled. You always get what you want, don't you? The redhead asked, staring at her, watching as she pulled off her shirt. Of course I do. Now it was Ignitus's turn to grin. Well, not with me, he smirked, kissing her neck, sucking near her collarbone as she let out a groan. You used to getting what you want when you want it, he said, pulling her upright, so they were standing, now leaning against the desk as she sat on the edge of it, straddling his legs as she unzipped his sweatshirt, pushing it off his shoulders and pulling his t-shirt over his head, which he allowed before kissing her again, his hands leaving no trace of her pale skin untouched. What's the problem with that? Angel asked, her arms hanging off his shoulders. Because I do things my way, and I have things my way. I let you change my mind once, but when my mind's truly set on something, there's no changing it. I'm stubborn like that, he whispered in her ear, making her shiver. And I'm really, really turned on. You're not going to change your mind, are you? She said with an annoyed sigh, watching as Ignitus groaned. Nope. Sucks not getting what you want, huh? Bite me. Can I at least ask why? Don't tempt me because I really would, and sure, I don't know you, I know absolutely nothing about you, and as much as I really do want to do this, I want to know the real you, not this front you've been putting up this whole time, a putty girl extraordinaire, he said, watching as she scowled before smirking. Okay, you want things your way, and I want what I want, and I get what I want, so how about this? You ask a question, and you get an answer that satisfies your need for knowledge. Then you do something to me that makes me a happy girl. Deal? Hearing this, smirked, leaning close as he whispered into her ear. Deal. What do you do? He asked, watching as she blinked at the question. I'm a full-time college student. I grew up in the suburbs, living an extremely sheltered life, and all I want is a little fun before I die, and I get it where I can. Hearing this, FP pushed her hair away from her neck as he began kissing it once again, his hand running the length of her leg, and after a few moments he stopped. Who are you really? Angel Guard. I was a cheerleader in high school, and I always got straight A's. I was never allowed to get out and be my own person, and who I am now is the result of being shut in for 18 years by my parents. I've been on my own for a year now, and I'm just living, she said through short breaths as he continued what he'd started, his hand now moving along her back, unclipping the hooks of her bra, leaving it kept on by only one hook as she whined. What more do you want to know? Is this going to be the last time I see you? He asked, his hand lingering near the back of her bra. Now this time she smirked. Only if you want it to be, she said, feeling as he pushed the straps down her shoulders before unhooking the final clasp, letting the bra fall off as he kissed her, leaning over the blonde and unbuttoning her jeans. No more questions? She asked, feeling as her high only continued to get higher. None, he breathed, feeling his hormones getting the better of him. Ugh. The night passed by in a blur, and the next thing he knew, it was morning, and he was severely hungover. Opening his eyes, Ignitus winced at the bright sunlight in the room, but as his eyes adjusted, he first noticed the face of a sleeping blonde across from him. Her lips were pink and pouty, and across her nose was a dusting of freckles. He watched as her eyelids flickered before slowly opening, her silvery eyes glazed with sleep, slowly focusing on him before she grinned. Hi, she said softly. Hey, I told you I get what I want, and I was not disappointed, Angel said with a small laugh. I think I'm still high. What the heck did you give me last night? Ignitus asked, sitting up and rubbing his head, Angel still lying on her side, wrapped in the blankets. My pot guy got it for me. He said it's Molly. It's kind of like a super pure ecstasy or something. Either way, it certainly does its job. Besides, you'd do that again, wouldn't you? The way she'd said it had been more of a statement than a question. I don't see why not, Ignitus said with a shrug. The experience reminded him of when he'd first gotten high, just that calm and very relaxed sensation. Good, we can double dip next time. That makes everything way more intense and vivid, she said, lighting up a cigarette and climbing from the bed completely nude as she walked around the room, tossing her clothes in the hamper before going through the drawer and pulling out fresh panties and a tank top. Turning, she paused, catching Ignitus staring at her. Am I putting these on, or are we gonna have to mess around some? Am I putting these on, or are we gonna mess around some more? She asked, cocking her hip and waiting for his response. I want to, but I have to go to work. Okay, she said simply, pulling on the panties and the tank top, glancing over at him. You're all cute and flustered, she said, bending down and tossing him his own boxers and jeans from the floor, watching as he dressed under the blanket before standing to put his jeans on and stooping to grab his t-shirt. Ignitus had no idea what to think of this girl. This wasn't ending like a one night stand, and she seemed beyond interested in continuing what was going on at the moment. The drugs and the drinking were only small stuff that he'd already been doing. At least the smoking was that, was but that other stuff didn't seem so bad. Heck, if anything, all it did was make him higher, and make him really want to get to know Angel in a much more intimate fashion. He was lost in his thoughts until her voice snapped him back to reality, her words making him blush severely. You know, the next time we decide to do this, I want you to have me up against that window, she said with a smirk. Hearing that, it took every fiber of his being not to just go and do it now. Glob, it's like she knew every single way to get a guy hot and bothered, and it most certainly didn't help to calm him down by how she looked at him. By how she looked at him either. It was like a fight with his body, like she was some kind of succubus. Grabbing his sweatshirt, he pulled it on. You're making me want to stay, but I have work, he said, writing his cell number down on a piece of paper on the desk. Call me when you want to hang, the red said head, trying to get his mind out of the gutter and away from all the possible things he could be doing with her, to her right now. Later, hot stuff, she said, watching him walk from the room. FP had lied. He didn't have work. He just needed to escape. He couldn't think right around that girl, a chick he'd known for less than 24 hours, and already had a let's get high and screw each other arrangement with. Nope, hell no, his Nana would drop dead of a heart attack if she found this out. Ember would probably beat his ass in defense of all womankind, not even including the beating he'd get for the Molly, and his parents would just further disown him, and oddly, he still cared what they thought of him. The more Ignitus thought about it, the more he came to the conclusion that he could not tell anyone about this. Like, what would they become? Friends with benefits? And if they became more, what then? His friends didn't do stuff like this. Honestly, Ignitus was sure that neither Fiona or Mo even knew what marijuana was. And if he brought Angel around them, he would she want to smoke with them, assuming that they did that kind of thing? That was just his thing only because he'd never forced it on any of them. And because it didn't do any harm to anyone either, the most that would happen was fuzzy focusing abilities and a severe case of the munchies. With a sigh, he climbed out of his truck and headed into the apartment building, pressing the elevator button for the fifth floor, waiting as the small box he was in slowly went up. There was going to be a lot to talk about. There had to be boundaries and rules for something like this. With a ding of the elevator, he walked into the hall, making his way over to their apartment, unlocking the door as he entered. Iggy, where the hell were you? I was worried, Ember snapped as he shut the door behind him. I got invited out after work and I ended up crashing at their place, no biggie. Sorry, I forgot to call, he said, knowing that would appease his sister. It's okay, Ig. Just let me know if you'll be staying out. You know I worry. Sorry, Emma. How'd yesterday's audition go? Awesome. I mean, I'll be in an old Navy flyer in their sucky clothes that lack my flair and style, but it's a paying job, she said excitedly. That's awesome, Em. I'll be in my room if you need me, okay? Sure thing. With that, FP walked to his room, shutting the door behind him as he flopped on the bed. Now he was thinking, coming up with rules and all sorts of stuff. This subject needed a lot of thought, but maybe not that much. It's not like it was going to affect his life in a major way, though. I mean, it is though. Anyway, there's a thing. There's an author's note that says, "Don't do drugs, damn it," because you really shouldn't. And as you can tell, I'm actually extremely stuffed up right now, so I'm gonna go take some medicine. Like I'm gonna take some of that Sinutab that I like, and I'm gonna wait a half hour for it to kick in, and then I'll be back with more recording. So, and I'm just gonna put these two chapters in a video of their own. So I love each and every one of you guys. Please don't forget to always be yourself. You are valid, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye. Hey friends, my name is Joey and welcome back to my channel, Gender Not Found. I'm gonna do 3 more chapters tonight and this time I'm gonna do them all in one video. So no outro or anything, well, until the end of the 3rd chapter, but I'm gonna try my best to do 3 chapters. I'm gonna at least do 2 and then we'll see if I'm gonna do a 3rd one. So we're on chapter 47, I think. So Also, I keep looking at different tattoos because I'm trying to decide what to get. I've changed my mind a bunch, and now I'm looking at like depression and mental health tattoos, and also like abuse survivor tattoos. I think that would be really interesting. Like one of the things I found is like a semicolon is for depression and suicide and stuff like that. It's like a survivor thing because you use a semicolon when your sentence isn't quite over, and oh my God, Nipples, are you okay? Sorry, but one of my rats was just climbing on one of the shelves on the cage and he fell off the cage. Are you okay, buddy? Okay, I think he's okay, but that like freaked me out, so I'm just gonna like keep an eye on him and make sure he's actually okay, because that made me a little nervous. Like he's not climbing. Buddy, don't do it again. Don't do it again. Buddy, no. Okay, there are ladders everywhere. Pick one and climb up. Please don't climb up to the cave. Oh, it's making me nervous. So what was I saying? Okay, I don't remember what I was saying, but I also just want to say that in a couple weeks my upload schedule is going to change a lot. I'm probably going to be uploading more often. I'm still going to be trying to upload every day. Obviously, I'm trying to upload every day right now, but the last time I did upload was 9 days ago, and now it's probably going to be another 2 days before I can upload again because tomorrow is Saturday, so I'm gonna be like waking up and eating lunch and just like hanging out for a bit until my mom comes home, and then she's gonna be home between 3 and 4 o'clock, she said. So we're gonna be like doing groceries, and then we're also gonna be going to get dinner because she was gonna grab dinner on the way home, but like she suggested that we would do groceries first, which is fine because she was going to get Wendy's on the way home and she was suggesting that we could go to a restaurant on the way home. And I asked her, can we get something different? I'm honestly not a huge fan of Wendy's. I used to be a fan of Wendy's when I was younger, but not so much anymore. I'm not so much a fan of Wendy's anymore. And honestly, I actually wanted to go to McDonald's, so I suggested, "Hey, maybe we could go to McDonald's instead." And she was like, "Okay, that's cool," which is good because like Wendy's is the kind of thing where if it's there and I'm hungry and I don't really have another option, I'll grab something. Like I do like their bacon cheeseburgers. That's usually what I go for. I get a baconator. If we're there and I'm hungry and I want food, then I'll get a baconator. But it's not the kind of thing where I would like choose to eat it if I had other options, like, if I'm out and I want fast food and I'm hungry, that sort of thing, and and we're there and I don't want to, cook at home or whatever, then yeah, I'll get a baconator. And the baconators are actually pretty good. I just tend to like other fast food restaurants more, and it isn't my first choice in terms of like a fast food restaurant. Obviously, my first choice is Taco Bell. My first choice is always Taco Bell. It's what I've been getting every single week over the last couple months. Um, oh, right, I remember what I was saying now. I was talking about how my upload schedule is going to change, and then one of my rats fell, and it scared me, so. But, basically, my upload schedule is going to change a lot. Right now, yeah, right now, the last time I uploaded was like 9 days ago, and, um, I was honestly gonna record more and upload more during the few days that my mom was away. But what I found is when my mom's away, and it's not like a school day, but when she's actually away on like vacation or something for a few days, it's really easy for me to be lazy. And I'm actually a lot lazier than I am on like a normal day. And so I just haven't gotten anything done the last couple of days. I think I did like one chapter last night, and that was the extent of it, and she's been gone since Tuesday, and I was expecting to get a lot more recording done. I wanted to try and record like 3 or 4 hours every day. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just set my goals too high and then I like freaked myself out, and so now I just want to like maybe I freaked myself out and I just felt like I couldn't do it or something, because sometimes that happens, but anyway, I don't like it. But anyway, so my upload schedule is going to change a lot. I'm still trying to upload every single day right now, but I'm going to be getting more serious about that once I moved out. I'm dealing with a lot of shit right now. I'm juggling, I've got a lot of balls in the air, and, I'm worrying about moving out. I'm worrying about, like, furnishing the place, which, by the way, they're going to give me a kickback. My mom got in charge, my mom got in contact with like one of those housing situation places, and I'm getting a kickback of like $500 for furniture and stuff. So I can buy a bed, I can buy the coffee table that I'm sitting at right now, because that was like the most important thing for me. The most important thing for me was to buy this coffee table. I have a great organizational system, and the two main things that I wanted were this coffee table and the bedside table that's beside my bed right now, which my mom is going to let me keep. As you can tell, I am feeling a lot better after taking Sinatab. I think I should start taking it every day again, because it was really doing good for me before, and then I stopped taking it for a while, and then I felt a little worse. So I think I'm just going to start taking it right now. And I also still have that surgery in a week, so that's going to be fun. But anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now. We're gonna just get into the book. This has been a 7 minute intro. It doesn't feel like 7 minutes, but whatever. We're gonna read now. Prepare. There's an author's note here that says, "Prepare for a lemon." I have no idea what that means. I'm assuming that's like some reference to the show that I don't get. But anyway, another 2 months has passed. Chapter 47, all about timing. 2 months later, prepare for a lemon. Okay. It was late Friday night in July, and Fiona sat in the family room playing video games. She was having a sleepover with two of the few people at work she could bear to be around. The first was her old schoolmate and friend Marceline. She still reminded the blonde a lot of Marshall. She was tall and slim as usual, but her long hair had been cut into a short punkish style once again. She and Fiona met about a month after the concert where she'd met up with Marshall. As it turns out, her band had also played that concert and had been the act before them. She was their bass player. She was a bit on the quiet side at work, but when she spoke, people knew to listen. Every now and then, she also called Fiona by Marshall's nickname for her fee. It still caught her off guard when she did so. The second's name was Lisa Sue Perry, or as Fiona dubbed her, LSP. She was a strange one, LSP. Finn had introduced them last year at his birthday party, and it was because of her Fiona had this job. She had wavy brown and purple hair and dark eyes. Lisa looked a tad on the bulky side, but that was only because the layers of clothes she always wore. It made her look lumpy, for lack of a better word. Actually, lumpy was a good word, since the girl was obsessed with said word and any variation of it. She was also very loud. Despite her obnoxious demeanor, they had actually become good friends, though LSP liked to gossip about people a bit too much for Fiona's liking. Honestly, Fiona was still kind of mad at her about the geeky birthday present that she'd gotten for her birthday. Okay. So, have you done it yet? The wavy haired girl asked, focusing on the game she, Marceline, and Fiona were playing. Done what? The blonde asked obliviously, now button mashing the controller as the black haired girl beside her snickered, pressing buttons and began wailing on the blonde with an ultra combo. Knowing she was stuck, Fiona scowled, trying to button mash her way to freedom. Lisa sighed, dropping the paddle dramatically, and lowering her voice, she turned to the blonde who paused the game to pay attention. Oh, my lumping glob, Fiona. Done it. It. You know, it. With Marshall, she said, giving the blonde a look. It took a moment for Fiona to understand, and when she did, her face burned red. No! She hissed hurriedly, getting up and checking that the door to the family room was shut. The last thing she needed was for her mother to hear this conversation. Come on, Fiona, what's the holdup? You like him, don't you? The brunette said, now staring. The brunette asked, now staring at Fiona. Of course I do, and I think I want to, but he won't. The farthest we've gone is touching with some clothes off. You just have to go out there and bare your lumps to him. What the heck kind of what the heck kind of advice is that? Marceline asked, scowling at LSP. Once again she sighed as Fiona simply stared at her, completely lost. Your lumps, you know, the wavy-haired teen said, leaning over and poking the blonde's chest, making Fiona smack her hand away. Hey! The blonde yelped with a blush. Your lumps, the girls. What did they have to do with anything? Fiona asked, holding her chest protectively. Guys can't resist a nice pair of lumps, Fiona. So, you're saying I should flash Marshall? Fiona said skeptically, as Marceline immediately piped up. That's a horrible idea. She can't just do that. She's got to do something. LSP, it won't work like that, Marceline said, now glaring at her. I think in this case, it's all about timing, the blonde said, looking up at the ceiling and watching the fan spin above them. What the lump does that mean? Well, I think Marsh is afraid that sex might ruin our relationship, so he doesn't want to rush into it. I mean, he said he wanted to wait until I was ready, and I'm pretty sure I am. It's been a few months since I thought that. You need to take the reins in this relationship, Fiona. If you guys never get to all that lumping, how will you really know that you love each other? What does that have to do with anything? People can love each other without having sex, and people can have sex without loving each other, Marceline said in a matter-of-fact voice. Yeah, what Marcy said, Fiona said, wondering where LSP was going with this. Well, every woman wants to be married to a guy who's great in bed. Glob, that's common knowledge. Okay, this isn't the strangest conversation I've ever had, Fiona said, putting her head in her hand, making Marceline laugh. Glob, Fiona, I'm being serious, the lumpy teen said, crossing her arms. Me too, the blonde said, bemused. Marshall's mother gave us the sex talk in her car. Once that beats this, but Marshall's mother gave us the sex talk in her car once. That beats this by far. So, when do you see him again? Tomorrow, Marcy. I'm spending the night there. FP's bringing me back the next afternoon because he's visiting his grandma Sunday and I have to work. Then after that, it's all of next weekend because we have two shows Friday and Saturday. Well, there you go. That's plenty of time for you guys to get it on, Lisa said, smirking. Oh, Glob, can we stop talking about this? The blonde asked with her cheeks brightening, LSP staring at her incredulously. No, Fiona, you have to lumping promise me that when I see you next, you'll have gone farther with him than you guys have ever gone, like ever. But LSP, promise me, LSP said, now leaning over the blonde, making her almost fall over. Ah, okay, I promise. You don't have to promise something like that. Good, my work is done. Night, Fiona, night, Marcy. With that, Lisa walked over to where her pillow and blankets were near the couch and pulled them over her head, and almost instantaneously had fallen asleep. What in Glob's name was that about? Marceline asked, sharing a look with the very confused blonde. I have no idea. Marcy, what do I do? Fiona asked, now staring at her friend, feeling hopelessly lost. Just take your time with stuff like this. It's best not to rush into it, you know? I mean, if you just throw him your V card, he'll expect it all the time and won't be appreciative when he actually gets some. Besides, sometimes it's honestly best to wait. My first time was kind of a disastrous success. Hell, it was our post prom party, too. I was so drunk, she said with a laugh. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's all good. The past is what it is and all that. Just take your time, Fiona. If you feel ready, let him know. And if he is not ready, respect his wishes and wait. Besides, don't all good things come in time? She asked, watching as Fiona nodded. Well, that does make sense. Definitely does. Besides, it wasn't all that bad. He sure as hell knew what he was doing, she said with a yawn. Stretching and standing, she walked over to the love seat, plopping on it. Well, what happened? Fiona asked curiously, still sitting on the floor. You really want to go over the nitty-gritty details of my first time? Marcy asked with a laugh, watching as Fiona's face turned red once again. I didn't mean it like that, but you said it was a disastrous success. What does that mean? Ah, I get it, Marcy said as she looked back at the fan on the ceiling. Well, I'm not proud of it, you know. I kind of expected my first time to be with somebody I had actually known for more than 4 hours, you know? And not a one night stand, but hey, things happen. It started off all good with the making out and stuff. I mean, we were both pretty drunk, so inhibitions were pretty low and hormones were up. We were kind of going at it, like really making out with all the touching and whatever. So we end up on the bed, and at this point, even drunk as hell, I know we're gonna have sex. So he's kissing his way down my legs, and OMG, Fiona, that thing he did with his tongue, and oh, glob, it was amazing. I give him an A in oral skills, that's for sure. Marceline said, laughing with a blush on her face. The disastrous part? Fiona asked, her face pink. Oh, right, heh, sorry. Right, so I guess with how chilled out I was, he thought that I was more experienced than I was. So, no warning, nothing. Just after he gets the condom on, he slams into me. Well, that hurt like hell, so I screamed and that freaked him the heck out. And just out of my natural reaction, I punched him. I mean, that totally threw off our groove because one minute we're all hot and heavy, and the next I'm yelling in pain and he's getting a face full of my fist, she said nonchalantly as Fiona stared in shock. And then? Well, it didn't take him any longer than that to figure out that I was a virgin, because he panicked like a lot. He was apologizing up a storm, saying he didn't know, which obviously I hadn't expected him to. But at that point, he just wouldn't shut up, so I grabbed him and kissed him. I mean, the worst part was already over, so why not put yourself through the pain if you're gonna quit? Because of it, you know? I mean, that would just be so stupid. I mean, that would just be stupid. So I was just like, screw it, we're doing this. And he's so made up for it. Like, I'm not kidding. I think he was the best I'll ever get. What makes you think that? The blonde asked curiously. Surely a one night stand couldn't be the best thing she'd get in the world of sexual pleasures. Now Marceline laughed, her face tinting pink. Fee, I have only two words for that question. Orgasm control. I told you he made up for it. He was completely determined to. After the fourth one, I thought I was going to die and stop counting them. So disastrous success it was. I can see that. Not to sound rude, but do you even know who he was? I can't remember his name, but I remember what he looked like. He left his number in my phone under his initials, but what guy has a mind-blowing one-night stand and willingly gives you his number for you to call him the next day? So I figured it was crap and never called it. Like I always hoped it was real, but never tried calling it. Hell, if it was real, I could have dated a hottie and had awesome sex frequently. But whatever, I can't miss what I've never had. I'm going to bed. Advice for you, if you overthink it, you'll just give yourself a headache. Just go with the flow, you know? Okay, I'll try. Night, Marcy. Night, Fee. Oh, Glob, what have I gotten myself into? The blonde thought with a sigh as she too climbed into her blankets, nestled on the couch and letting sleep take her. She hoped that tomorrow would be a good day. Marshall had finished cleaning up his place. It had been a complete sty, especially since he let FP crash for the last week now. Because Fiona was coming over, he'd booted the redhead from his house, effectively evicting him from the couch and forcing him to play nice with his sister once again. The last of the dishes had been washed when he heard a knock on the door before it opened. Marsh, I'm here, he heard her call as he shut the water off, wiping his hands on his jeans. Marshall made it to the threshold at the same time Fiona did and caught her in his arms, pulling the blonde close for a kiss. I missed you, he said with a smile, breaking the kiss and watching as Fiona's pink face slowly returned to a normal color. I missed you too. I brought the movies, Fiona said, holding up her backpack with a grin. If anything, her parents had an awesome collection of horror movies. Digging them out, Fiona put her bag at the end of the couch and the large stack of movies on on the corner table. They'd gone through two of the movies without much going on, and the whole time Fiona's mind was racing. You just have to go out there and bare your lumps to him, LSP's voice said, ringing through her thoughts. Okay, I can do this, she thought, unzipping her sweatshirt and casually pulling it off, revealing a low-cut tank top meant to act as an undershirt. Once free of her garment, she snuggled closer to Marshall, who glanced at her curiously. With the AC on, it's freezing in here. Why is she taking her sweatshirt off? That made little sense to him, so in an effort to keep her warm, Marshall pulled the blonde close as the movie continued on. Oh, Glob, it's freezing in here, the blonde thought, trembling after a good half hour had passed. Fee, are you cold? Nope. Ah, then why are you shaking? The movie's not that scary. Crap, now it was either admit to being a pansy scaredy cat or admit to being cold and be questioned to why she took her sweatshirt off. Yeah, it's kind of cold in here, she said softly, to wound her pride. Unwilling to wound her pride. Shaking his head, Marshall got up, and after a few minutes returned with a blanket and a bowl of popcorn. Here, he said, sitting down and lifting the end for Fiona to scoot under, which she gratefully did, snuggling close to Marshall for warmth. I turned the AC off too, so that should help in a bit. Thanks, Marsh. Are you okay, Fiona? You seem quieter than usual. Other than coming, other than trying to come up with a way to not break my promise to LSP, I'm fine. The blonde thought miserably. Oh, I didn't. Oh, I didn't notice. I've been too into the movies, Fiona said, shrugging. Okay. Turning back to the screen, Marshall wasn't convinced. Something was up with Fiona, and he was going to figure out what. Taking his hand, he slowly ran it down the blonde's arm, watching as she tensed at the sudden contact before relaxing under his touch. Seeing this, Marshall smirked, knowing that the answer he was seeking would soon be found. After all, Fiona always developed a serious case of word vomit when she was flustered. This was a proven, tested method he'd used on Fiona multiple times now. With his free hand, Marshall reached over, tilting Fiona's head to face him. He leaned forward, brushing his lips lightly over hers, making Fiona scoot closer for more contact. He kissed her cheeks, then her forehead, then her chin. Drawn close to her lips once again, as he rested his forehead slightly against hers, giving the blonde another light kiss. Fiona was blushing hard, and he could tell, feeling the heat radiating from her face. After the third of the light kisses, Fiona leaned forward, crashing her lips against his, wanting much more than what he was giving. His hand still caressing her arm pulled it up to his neck, and Fiona responded, bringing the other around as his hand settled on her waist as they continued kissing. You gonna tell me what's on your mind now? He asked. Shaking her head, Fiona kissed him again. Marshall mentally huffed. Usually she would vomited by now. Time for stage 2. Breaking his kiss and allowing Fiona to breathe, Marshall's fingers touched the bare skin under her tank top. Slowly he lifted it up, and much to his surprise, Fiona leaned back, allowing the shirt to come up over her head, and when she leaned close once again he kissed her. Running his hands up and down her arms and caressing her back, slowly he kissed down her jaw, making his way to her neck. Kissing the spot where her neck and shoulder met practically made the blonde melt, as Fiona let out a quiet groan as she closed her eyes, letting the sensations take her. His hands, which had been caressing her back, now settled on her waist, one sliding along the edge of her jeans until it reached the button and zipper, both which were easily undone. Leaving her jeans on her, just undone, Marshall once again broke the kiss. Leaning back, he unbuttoned and removed his own and undershirt, tossing them on the table where Fiona's was. With that done, he pulled the blonde close once again, reveling in the sensation of her skin against his as he kissed her. Are you sure you don't have anything on your mind, Fee? Again, she shook her head, and Marshall continued, wondering just what to do next. Okay, this game of fluster the word vomit out of Fiona is going badly. She's way too into this. Time for stage 3. What exactly is stage 3? Marshall thought. Now that he thought about it, he'd never had to use it before, and was wondering if maybe his next thought would work. He wouldn't take it any farther than that tonight. Slowly, very slowly, he leaned forward, making Fiona lean back underneath him, just enough so he could remove her jeans. He started sliding her jeans slowly down her legs, only to be surprised when Fiona lifted her hips, making it that much easier for him to do so. He decided to up the ante and began kissing his way down her neck, chest, and tummy as he slowly pulled her jeans all the way down her legs and tossing them aside on the growing clothes pile as he pulled back to remove his own jeans. This is as far as he was taking it. If this, making out in just their underwear, didn't get Fiona to freak out and word vomit, then nothing would. And if it didn't, then at least they were getting in one hell of a makeout session. Marshall kissed her once again, kissing her lips, neck, and shoulder as he slowly eased Fiona back, so she was lying beneath him. As he continued kissing her, his hands running along every available inch of skin they could reach, her arms, her shoulders, her waist, chest, back, belly, butt, and legs, making Fiona let out another quiet, panting moan. Glob, she has amazing legs. Crap! Don't get distracted! Don't get distracted! As much as he tried, Marshall couldn't help but get distracted when he realized that he was snug between those amazing legs. Fiona squirmed beneath him, sounding almost breathless when she spoke. Marsh, are we? Marshall shook his head. He had made up his mind. Not tonight, not now. Quickly he backed away from her, but Fiona grabbed his hand. Marshall? Looking up, he caught Fiona's eyes as she pushed herself up into a sitting position. It wasn't about keeping her promise to Lisa. If she wanted to be technical, she'd kept it the moment he took their pants off. Fiona wanted this. She knew. She was ready and knew she had been for a while. Would you ever want this with me? Her question caught him off guard. Of course I would, but I don't want to rush things, Fiona. With you, it just. Everything means. He was lost for words, but when Fiona spoke next, it summed up what he felt. It means so much more? She asked, remembering what he'd told her almost a year ago. Hearing this, he nodded. It does, he said, softly cupping her cheek. Fiona, I want to do things right with you. I don't want to rush you. I don't want to do this wrong. Marshall, with you, I do want this. There's no wrong way for this to go, she said softly, hoping to reassure him. Marshall still looked unsure, though. Everything will change, Fiona. Things will be different, and if we do this, it can take you to a place that even in your wildest dreams you couldn't imagine. It's a place you can't come back from. It can't be undone. Would you honestly be ready for that? With you? Yes, she said, placing her hand over his and holding it against her cheek. Marshall sat back and stared at the blonde before him, and she stared back completely unashamed and without fear or reservation. She did want this. Marshall couldn't believe he was having this conversation with her. Never did he imagine that it would be happening like this, that he'd be the one giving in when he'd been so determined not to. Letting out a sigh, Marshall brought her hand to his lips, kissing it and giving her a serious look. Okay, sometimes the first time can hurt, he said, scooting closer to her. I don't want to hurt you, ever. I know, but I know you would never hurt me on purpose, she said softly, leaning back while he leaned over her. Let's go upstairs, Marshall said, and the moment she felt her back touch the couch once again, Marshall had scooped her into his arms and carried the blonde up the stairs to his room, laying her gently on the bed as he kissed her again. He was right, it did hurt, and even though she was expecting the pain, she wasn't prepared for it. All of that melted into insignificance as she was completely overwhelmed by him. Fiona could feel the mix of his body wash and shampoo because they were so close. The feel of his skin against hers was amazing, and the taste of his kisses was so sweet. Marshall was right. This absolutely changed everything. Fiona swore that the depth of emotion she felt for him had grown more than she'd ever felt possible for it to do so. Fiona was beautiful, her golden hair spilling across the bed in waves, her skin so unimaginably soft, like silk under his hands. The smell of cinnamon and vanilla seemed to be everywhere, and her soft, panting breaths were like music to his ears. Her skin was salty and sweet, and was now tinted a lovely shade of pink, which Marshall was particularly proud of. He continued kissing her, knowing he was making Fiona feel things she'd never experienced before. Her fingers tightened on his shoulder as she let out yet another panting gasp, burying her face into his neck as her body trembled. Her heart raced, and resting her head on his chest, Fiona listened as the racing beat of his heart matched hers. She just lay there with her eyes closed and this goofy smile across her face. That had been utterly phenomenal, definitely worth the wait. Marshall leaned forward, kissing the top of her head, trailing his way to her neck, before stopping to breathe in the vanilla scent of her hair. Slowly, Fiona opened her eyes, turning her head to meet Marshall's gaze, as he looked tentatively down at her, waiting to see what she'd say to what they'd just done together. It was, Fiona said, still catching her breath. She couldn't find the words to describe what they'd just done. Beyond anything you ever imagined? Marshall asked, grazing along her exposed skin with his fingers. You have no idea. Fiona smirked, blinking slowly, feeling as his fingers tickled her skin. I think I'd like to do that again, she said softly, feeling as his hands stilled as now Marshall looked at her in surprise before grinning at the blunt laying on him. Oh, would you? He asked in amusement, watching as Fiona blushed and nodded, slowly looking up at him through her lashes with a small smile. I would. Marshall pulled the blonde towards him as he kissed her, holding Fiona tightly in his arms as his hands slowly began to wander once again. Well, Marshall said softly as he reached into the nightstand. Once again he began kissing his way down her neck, feeling as her skin heated up against his. I think we can make that happen, he murmured against her neck as Fiona wrapped her arms around him. They both breathed heavily, and holding her close, Marshall kissed Fiona's forehead, tasting the sweat on her slick skin. After kissing her forehead, he kissed her lips, trying to keep from collapsing against her, and managing to land right beside her on the bed. Are you tired? Marshall asked, sounding exhausted. Because I won't lie, 3 times was pushing it for me, and I'm tired. You are tired, right? He asked, leaning over the blonde and dropping the used condom in the small barrel with the others. A little bit, she lied. Tired didn't even cover it. She was completely and utterly shattered. Honestly, even if her life depended on it, the blonde didn't think she could move. But she didn't want to sleep. She wanted to just lay awake next to Marshall, relishing in the remembered sensations, the feel of their shared kisses, and the complete unadulterated bliss of his touch. Go to sleep. I'll be right here with you when you wake up, Marshall said, pulling her close to him once again and kissing her neck, as Fiona with a smile nuzzled her head into his chest. I don't want to, she said softly, her hands wandering, feeling the lightly defined muscles under his skin as she did so. Well, what do you want to do? Marshall asked, his hand continuously running up the silky skin of her waist and down past her hip and back up her back. Well, what do you want to do? Oh, just this, just being here with you. I'm so glad it was with you, Marshall, Fiona said, sleepily feeling as he began playing with her hair, the sensation putting her right to sleep, Marshall quickly following suit. It was cold, the air conditioning in the room now plainly obvious, and he could feel Fiona shivering against him. Opening his eyes, Marshall looked around, blearily feeling the chilly blonde tremble beside him. While they had been sleeping at some point, Fiona had kicked the blankets off of the bed sometime in the night. Climbing from the bed, Marshall realized that they both wore nothing. He blushed and couldn't help but stare at Fiona, who was completely and utterly beautiful, bathed in the bathed in the silvery moonlight. Walking to the dresser and pulling on a pair of sweatpants, digging through the dresser, he pulled out an old T-shirt to put on her. She could hear movement in the room, and looking up, Fiona smiled through her sleepiness, recognizing the dark hair and his familiar smell. Oh, Fiona loved the smell of his body wash. Gently, Marshall sat the blonde up on his bed, supporting her as she leaned against him. He'd found an old T-shirt, and holding her steady, he dressed Fiona in his shirt with the blonde's help. Once she was dressed, Marshall let her lay back down. Grabbing the blanket off the floor, Marshall climbed into the bed next to her, pulling Fiona close to him under the blanket, as together they drifted off back into sleep, their legs tangled together and reveling in the warmth of each other's embrace. Fiona woke feeling warm and sleepy as Marshall held her tightly. She was cradled against his chest with her head nuzzled under his chin. She didn't want to move a single inch, but she knew she had to. Fiona had work at 3 today, and glancing at the clock, it was almost 9:30. That gave her a little more than an hour to spend with Marshall, before FP would be here to drive her back home. On the ride home, she looked no different. She felt different, but still looked like the same Fiona. Honestly, she was kind of paranoid that everyone would just somehow know, just by looking at her, that they'd finally done it. Once she arrived back to her house, she only had an hour to get to work. quickly dressing in the t-shirt with the Perks logo on it and putting on a pair of khaki shorts. Fiona hurried downstairs and asked her dad for a ride. It was a 15-minute drive and almost an hour walk. Leaning over to her to hug her dad in thanks, Fiona hopped out of the car and entered the main office, where Marceline was behind the desk watching as her friend clocked in. Hey, Fee, how was your yesterday? It was good, really good, she said with a blush, making the dark-haired girl's eyes gleam as she grinned. Oh, my lumping glob, Fiona, did you keep your promise? Fiona laughed. Oh, my, oh, my lumping glob, Fiona, did you keep your promise? Fiona laughed. Yes, LSP, I did. Making out with less clothes than usual, that counts, Fiona said, watching as LSP sighed loudly. Good enough. Now I gotta go teach these kids how to camp with the essentials, a blanket and a can of beans, Lisa said, walking from the office. Fiona sat behind the desk and blushed under her friend's gaze. What? Fiona asked with a smile. Come on, Fee, how was it? Marceline asked with a smirk. Better than I ever imagined it would ever be, the blonde said, unable to stop smiling, her cheeks pink. So, I take it you had a good time? I wish it never had to stop, but I get why he wanted to wait, and I appreciate him waiting for me, she said softly, grabbing several papers from a pile as she began stapling them together. Like, I know we've been in love all this time, but waiting for so long, it's like the anticipation of it made it even better. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. I mean, sometimes the sound of the door's jingling bell caught Marceline's attention. As she stopped speaking, and Fiona, hearing only silence, looked up to find her friend blushing a lot. Marcy, what's... Girlie, you left this in the truck. I have to go now. It was amazing to see you both. Bye, Fiona, FP said quickly, tossing her the bag and hurrying from the building. Well, he definitely remembers me, Marceline said, sitting at her vacated chair and pulling over the pamphlets they were working on. She stuffed them into envelopes as Fiona simply stared at her in shock. That was the prom guy? FP's the prom guy? She asked, looking from Marceline to FP through the glass window, who seemed to be pacing back and forth near his truck. Yep. Go talk to him. It's not like he's dating anyone, Fiona said, watching as Marceline turned to her aghast. What the heck do I say to him? Oh, I had a great one-night stand. Want to be my boyfriend? Marceline asked sarcastically. I don't know. Certainly not that, but figure something out, Fiona said, throwing her hands in the air. They didn't have to figure something out because the door opened. Listen, I don't usually do crap like that, okay? Like, I try to be a nice guy with flowers and stuff. I don't usually do what we did, Ignitus said, trying to be discreet. "Mm, Well, I don't do stuff like that either, Marceline said, now staring at the redhead, watching him scratch the back of his head. I kind of figured that out, he said, watching as her face tinted red. I just want to apologize. That's not how it should have happened, he said, now looking at the floor rather intently, noticing as Fiona nonchalantly left the room, leaving them alone. I'm sorry, he said as Marceline watched Fiona shut the door, locking herself in the back room. Don't apologize, you were drunk, I was drunk, I had a good time, she said, shrugging her shoulders. It's whatever, it happened last year, we were safe, nobody got knocked up, and I didn't get any diseases. I'm not diseased, FP said, feeling insulted as Marceline rounded on him. I'm saying in general, geez, one night stands make you worry about that crap, she snapped, watching as he looked down, again making her feel a stab of guilt. I'm sorry, it's over and done with. There's no point in lingering on it. There's no reason to apologize me. There's no reason to apologize to me. It was pointless, meaningless sex, that's all, nothing more. Yeah, I know. Why didn't you ever call me? He asked curiously. I thought the number was a fake. Times like that it usually is, she said with a shrug. Besides, I figured at this point you'd be seeing someone, and I'm not the type to go chasing guys. Yeah, I am actually. I have no idea what we are, he said under his breath, staring at the floor, before shaking his head and clearing his thoughts. But I kind of figured that about you. I mean, you were awesome to hang out with, and... Wait, but I kind of figured that about you. Wait, but I kind of figured that about you. I mean, you were awesome to hang out with and pretty badass too. And I know you and Fiona jammed together. Where are you going with this? She asked curiously. I really don't know. Maybe we could all hang out together if it was okay. Okay, maybe. I'll go get Fiona. I think she wanted to tell you something anyways, she said, walking over to the door. Fee, we're all done here, she said, trading places with the blonde, and sitting in the back room listening as the two talked out front. That was like embarrassment central. Like really that sucked. But now that Marceline thought about it, she definitely knew where she'd found him now. That was what had been bugging her the whole time. From what she remembered of that night, they'd been hanging out the whole time, which didn't seem right because they were in a small town, and she didn't know him. But remembering that Fiona knew him, that he was Marshall's friend, that put the puzzle pieces in her head together on just where he'd come from. What the heck do you mean you're kind of seeing someone? You either are or aren't. Why haven't I met her either? The blonde asked with her hands on her hips. I don't know what we are. We're doing couple stuff, but there's no title. Like, I don't know if we're friends with benefits or if we're dating, he said, leaning on the counter and sounding annoyed. Fiona tilted her head in confusion. What's an FWB? She asked, watching as his face burned in embarrassment, his head now resting on the counter along with his arms. That's kind of embarrassing, Fiona, but to put it in super simple terms, it's doing couple stuff without being a couple. Friends with benefits. Oh, so you guys watch movies and hold hands and stuff? Oh, Fiona, that's so not even close. Your innocence is disturbing sometimes. That's not exactly what we do, FP said, watching as understanding came on Fiona's face. Oh, so you guys kiss and make out and stuff. That's closer? I'm still not telling her, though. That's exactly what we do, he said, mentally shaking his head again at her innocence. Now Fiona caught him off guard. Why haven't we met her yet? I mean, Mo introduced us to Kate last month, so unless she's totally brand new, why haven't you brought her to meet us? We've been doing our thing for the last 2 months. It's like I said, I don't know where we really stand. Sometimes she wants to make out all the time, and then other times she wants to do other stuff and then make out. There's a lot of making out, he said, getting lost in his thoughts. Well, do you like her? The blonde asked curiously. Sometimes she can be wicked pushy, but other than that, yeah, I guess I do. Why don't you ask her to date you? Or do you like somebody else? Fiona asked, now leaning on the counter. Listen, girlie, the whole thing's complicated enough as it is now. I'm just gonna leave it alone and see what comes of it, okay? Ignitus asked with a shake of his head and a sigh. Okay, that's no problem. Thanks for bringing my bag, FP, Fiona said as he turned to walk out the door. It's no biggie, he said with a wave. Tell your friend I said bye. Her name's Marceline, and I'll tell her. With a nod, he walked from the forest center, Fiona turning to go into the office. Is he gone? Marceline asked, now organizing the mail. Yep. That was beyond embarrassing, Fee, the older teen said, still working on her busy work. I believe it. I'll go finish those letters, okay? All right, I'll be working around if you need me. I'll bring the radio if I leave. Okay, Marcy, Fiona said, leaving her friend alone. The time just couldn't pass fast enough for Marceline. She wanted to go home, to sleep away the embarrassment, and just wake up tomorrow like everything was totally normal, like she always did. All right, that was it. And funny story, I was actually thinking about um when the chapter is called All About Timing, and the first message that I ever made Harvey write in blood, at least the first message that I've written about, is it's all about timing. So it made me think of that because I've been reading In the Heart of Darkness over like the last few days, like not this week, but I think like a week ago, I was reading a little bit of In the Heart of Darkness, or maybe the week before that. I don't know. It was recently. Anyway, I think it's 2:30, and I've been recording for almost 45 minutes. So I think I'm just gonna leave it here and have some food and maybe come back and record a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure, but we're gonna see. I'm gonna My rats are moving around. Okay, maybe I'll be back with another chapter. I don't know. I know I wanted to do at least 2 chapters, but like it's late. Hang on, let me see how long the next chapter is. Maybe I'll read it. Okay, I'm gonna see how long this chapter is first. Okay, it looks like a longer chapter, so I don't think we're gonna yeah. Wait. Okay, it looks like a longer chapter. I don't really want to read it, and I'm hungry. I need food. So, yeah. Um, Also it's 2:30 in the morning, and like I was saying, it's super. My mom's been on vacation the last few days, and I don't know why, but I just feel lazier when she's around. Like it's easier to be lazier and just sit around watching TV and do literally nothing else. And I have so many balls in the air right now, and like I will definitely be recording next week though, because this should have just been a break for me. I should have just taken this as a break, even though I've been taking a break for over a week now. I haven't uploaded anything in 9 days, and I haven't really been editing stuff either. I I already posted the stuff that I did edit, so and the stuff that I haven't edited yet, I haven't been editing, so I did record stuff but I didn't record anything this week, I don't think. Um, so I think I'm just gonna leave it here for tonight, and then I'm gonna come back tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow. It's gonna be on Monday at this point. But on Monday, I have nothing going on because I don't have a support worker anymore. Because I fired the support worker. Because we weren't a good match for each other. So essentially, I'm just gonna be like hanging out. I have a 1 hour with Carrie Ann, but that's at 1 o'clock, so I can record like before and after, and I don't have to worry about it. So I think I'm gonna stop it here, but I am gonna still do 2 more chapters and put it all in the same video. So I'm gonna record 2 more chapters on Monday, and then I'm gonna put it all in the same video. So I'm not gonna stop here. I'm just gonna pause here, and then I'm gonna be back on Monday with a couple more chapters, and I'm gonna just put it all together because that makes it easier. And honestly, I just really like posting more content for you guys. Like I like posting more than one chapter per upload. And I would like it if I could keep uploading at least 2 chapters every upload. And, obviously I'd like it if I could do more, and I still might do like a giant upload because I'm on we just finished chapter 47, and the last time I uploaded it, I uploaded chapter 36, I think, which means I have 11 chapters unchecked. So I think what I might do is do a video with like, I don't know, 6 or 8 chapters in one video. I know I did like the outros for some of them, but whatever, I'll just put it all together anyway. I really want to do another mega upload, like a burst upload with like 3 hours of content, whatever that means. Anyway, I gotta talk to you guys about my I talked to you guys about my entire yeah, my whole upload schedule and stuff like that because it's gonna change once I move into my new place. And at this point, I'm not gonna be recording anything new until Monday or uploading anything. I might upload something on Saturday if I can wake up early enough, or I might just do nothing because honestly, I feel like this has been a nice break for me. I know I was having a break a little bit before this, but this has just been a break from like everything in life in general. Also, I wanted to start writing my own Feely fan fiction, um, and it's gonna cover years of their life, and then it's start. It's gonna. It's it's going to start in high school and then it's going to go partly into their adulthood. And yeah, I was kind of inspired by this book, but I'm planning to do something pretty different. Like, I'm going to have all my own ideas and stuff, and I just have to get that organized. But I am going to start the fan fiction. So I'll let you guys know when I post the first chapter and I'll put a link and stuff. Maybe I'll even read it on my channel. But I just want to say I'm really enjoying this book and I'm so glad that it's in my life. And now I'm really hungry and I need to eat food. So I have to go. Yeah, I don't feel very good right now. I need food. I even if I wanted to sit here and record another chapter, I couldn't. So I'm gonna go eat some food and then I'm gonna start heading towards bed because it's late and I should be. And I'm gonna record 2 more chapters on Monday, and then I'm gonna post them all inside the same video. Alright, so. Oh, I almost did my outro. Okay, I will see you guys in the next. Okay, see you guys with the next chapter. Bye.